What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Crazy Ant Farm. Holy moly, it feels good to be back. First show since coming back from California. It's cold here, guys. It's cold here.
I'm so cold.
Not feeling the cold.
Yeah, but it's November.
It's
supposed to be at least kind of
I wanted to
cold.
ease into it, though.
Exactly.
There was
This
no
is Mississippi.
easing.
Ain't no easing.
No. It's not supposed to be this cold till January here, okay?
Right.
Yeah,
That's how it goes.
whatever.
Well, I'm supposed to be able to wear shorts outside this
3
time.
days from now, it'll be 80.
Yeah.
It's in Mississippi, it's okay.
Yeah.
You know.
But we want to start our industry news off with some sad news. Stan the man, Stan Lee, passed away at the age of 95. Passed away on Monday. Apparently, he made a video a few days before passing away that was thanking all of his fans and telling them how much he appreciates them and all that good stuff. So it's so sad.
I think sometimes you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
people will do that. They'll have like a goodbye moment before they pass, especially when they're older like that or have been sick for a while or anything like that. I think sometimes you just sort of know.
And I
it's
mean,
your time.
unfortunately, the past 2 years have just been tumultuous as all get out for him.
Yeah.
I mean, with all the
After
stuff
his
going on.
wife.
After his wife passed away, it's just been.
Yeah.
I mean, the stories coming out of there was just like crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, remember even at one point Kevin Smith offered to like take him in
Yeah.
because there was so much controversy going on with. Yeah, it was a tough one for me because I mean, like for my entire childhood and adult life, like everything was like Stan Lee, and like I mean,
Yeah.
Well, that's why I posted on Facebook was any comic book fan, any moviegoer, or anybody in humanity is going to miss Stan Lee.
yeah,
exactly.
I mean,
We were in the middle of exercising, and he was like, "Oh, I gotta stop. I gotta
I
stop."
did. I literally, it took the wind out of me. I was like,
Yeah.
he was like, "Oh man, Stan Lee died," and I was like, "Oh," and it literally stopped. You know, I was just like, stopped me in my tracks because, I mean, think about all of the stuff this man has like contributed to pop culture and like
in
what
general,
is. I mean, he really literally redefined the comic book genre.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you had Superman and like several of these other characters and everything, but they were all so grandiose and so,
Right.
you know, and he was like, hey, you can have superpowers, but be real. You know,
real.
you can be going through relationship problems, or you know, you have acne, or you have, and I think one of the real things that he did was like bring that into all of you know, that genre. Like, let's make these characters real. And I mean, one of the first things he did was make sure that all of his characters were set in real cities, as opposed to DC with, you know, Gotham and Metropolis and all. He's like, no, Spider-Man is in New York City.
In New York.
Like,
He's
you know,
from
he
Queens.
wanted to make it real,
And then
you
showing
know?
like someone growing up, like maybe the nerdy guy,
Right.
then he got superpowers, and then trying to like fight with his normal life and with what's going on. And, oh, do I hide it or do I put it out there and stuff?
And I think that's what caught fans so much. I mean, because they could relate to these characters now, and they were going through the same thing they were going through, and so, you know, for him to be able to do that and like
and the equality, he had a big thing about equality too. This is the thing on X-Men is all the parallels on it is trying to be more equal in an industry that was just it's all macho man. It's all big guns. I'm gonna go save the day and save the
Yeah, and there was a great story I saw the other day with Hugh Jackman talking about after he had passed, and he said, I still remember, you know, my first time at Comic-Con, and I'm on the red carpet, and I'm Wolverine, and I'm like, yeah, everybody loves Wolverine. I'm like that, and I'm on the carpet, and I notice I'm all by myself, and like nobody's there, and I'm like, what? And then I look down the end of the carpet, and Stan Lee is there, and like there's just thousands of people, and I'm like, I get it.
I understand.
Okay, that's the first time I realized Stan Lee, you know, and I mean, I can't even imagine, like, and you saw all of the Marvel people, you know, Marvel universe, cinematic universe people, just, you know, Robert Downey Jr., I owe everything to him.
Exactly.
I mean, and then on the flip side, all the DC people, like, hey, us too, you know, we all kind of like, so.
Well, and Kevin and I were talking about how we're going to miss his cameos in the movies and stuff, you know, but I don't think that they're going to not pay tribute to him in the rest of the movie.
Somehow.
Well, Kevin Feige hinted that Stan likes surprises.
Yeah.
And he did hint that his cameos are not over for a while.
Yeah.
So they did confirm he had already filmed his Avengers Infinity War Part 2 cameo. We know he had already done his cameo for Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
But Kevin Feige the other day hinted that maybe even beyond that they had already kind of worked something.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, maybe he kind of knew or didn't know, but he hinted that his cameos were a long way from being over and to not worry so much.
Well,
so.
and even still, like with Deadpool, they just had like or maybe it was the Spider-Man game. I may be getting it mixed up, but I know that there was one where it was just a portrait of him.
Big Hero 6. They did that in the animated Marvel movie too. It was a portrait of him.
So I mean, even if it's not like the same thing.
The after credits of Big Hero 6, he actually has a full scene.
That's true. So yeah, I mean, he's gonna be missed. There's no doubt about it. But his legacy, I think, that's going to carry on long after we're all gone.
Yeah,
I mean that's going to be around forever. So rest in peace, Stan. Excelsior, sir.
Excelsior.
And
Yeah.
All right, let's bring it back up.
Let's
a little
bring
bit.
it back up. Red Dead Redemption 2, the long-awaited game. People have been waiting probably around 10 years for this. The last one came out with the last system of games, like the regular Xbox and the Xbox, or the Xbox 360.
It was like Gen 5. I forget what Gen is what,
but like, it's crazy the amount of games that this edition sold. $725 million worth of copies in just 3 days. That's more than the Avengers movie made in the box office week.
Yeah,
it
in
blew
its
out,
first 3 days.
Blew out their last hit, which Grand Theft Auto 5, I think, was $600 million. And this 725 is wow.
It's insane, man.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then we were talking about it, and this is a good transition too, because next week we'll be talking to Lucy Pohl.
Yeah.
Who's it's the realism of these games now, and they're getting big name actors to be like in these games.
Yeah.
They're basically like little movies now.
Exactly.
So 725 million. I mean, that's like
the next step. I really feel like the gaming world is gonna become like Ready Player One.
I think
you're
so.
just
Where
gonna
you
be
just
virtual
lock
reality.
in and you're like in the game.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've been waiting for that forever, man.
We're getting close. I feel like we're getting real close.
I think so. And I mean, you hear all of these entertainment companies and all the studios, Disney, all of them, they're all working on VR.
Yeah.
That's like their big thing now.
Yeah.
All the money's being funneled into VR,
Exactly.
VR. J.J. Abrams, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but he just announced, So, yeah, I think you're right. I think we're a lot closer than people think, where you can just gear up and go right into the game and
seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, but where's the full body suit? That's what I'm wondering. Like,
Right,
who's
like-
working on that one where you can feel the game?
Yeah, I mean,
you have full control while you're in the little.
Kind of creeps me out though. It reminds me of that Bruce Willis movie where everyone lives in like a robot. Like you just plug in and like you have like a what is that called? I forget what it's called now, but it's basically like your little. Where it's like your robot body is out there in the world for you, and like you live through that, and then, like, but your actual body is like, and everyone looks like way better. Everyone has like perfect skin, like, nice bodies, and then you see like their real versions that are in there, like their VR chairs, and they're all like crotchety and like.
Well, that's like Ready Player One. They envisioned themselves like how they wanted to envision themselves. Like home dude looked like a young John Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
Like I didn't really.
Yeah.
Like, for real, but. Where are we going with that though? Because look at the social disconnect already, just with cell phones.
Yeah,
and and I mean,
people just lock themselves in for
I mean,
weeks
well,
and
they'll
months at a
never-
time.
Oh, is that just like just pick up my cell phone and I'm looking at it?
Yeah. Because I mean,
it's getting close.
And then like we're already struggling to actually make human contact anymore. Like who sits down and has a conversation anymore? Yeah. And so now you just like, no, let's meet in the game.
Yeah.
What?
Exactly.
Like, how about we just meet at the corner? Like, meet in the game. Like, what? It's gonna
I've been
be
doing that
crazy.
forever though. You go in Call of Duty, you sign up with your friends.
See, but
and
then
you
think
play
about like
that.
when you like you
Halo.
said, full body suit and you're feeling it and you're like literally in the game. It's gonna be
and to even elaborate a little bit more on that, the new Red Dead Redemption game, you have to like shave, groom yourself, you have to eat, you have to wear the right clothes for the right climate.
Yeah.
Like, so what's stopping that from you going actually in the game and still having to do that? Like take care of yourself in the game.
getting so real.
Really
my thing is like, I mean, because we know several people, and actually a few of them have been guests on our show that are doing these games and voicing these characters in these games and everything.
Keena Ferguson's one of them.
Keena Ferguson, yeah. And so our guest next week is also doing Red Redemption, and I wonder, like, it's got to be pretty lucrative.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't tell me that a game that sold $725 million in 3 days is not paying these people.
They got to be getting a kickback.
They got to be getting somewhere.
And then there's any DLC that gets added to the game, so now they have to come back in the studio and do a new recording, and now they know they can re-sign a direct contract.
And can I just say, because like SAG just reworked the voice actor stuff, and then like. I just want to go on record and say, if they're not getting paid really well, hey, pay up.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, because I think the reason these games are the way they are now and so successful is because they've become so real and they have these incredible actors playing out the roles and doing all this stuff. I mean, give credit
they
where
model
credit's due.
They model the character after the actor a lot of
times
too.
They do, yeah. And
look at a Grand Theft Auto 5. Most of those characters, they do look like their voice actors, especially like Stephen Ogg, I think his name.
Yeah, Stephen Ogg.
Stephen Ogg. Yeah. He looks just like Trevor.
He really does. Stephen Ogg, how crazy, right? Just to throw that out there, our guest, Jeff Cantor. Stephen Ogg is his student.
Yeah,
he
it's so crazy.
Wow. Yeah, he was an acting student of Jeff Cantor. Yeah. It's like it's all connected.
Yeah, go back and listen to that one.
Go back and listen to that one. It was a great interview.
Yeah.
Well, it's a small world. It's a small world syndrome.
It is. It really is. It really is. But yeah, I mean, way back as far 8-10 years ago, like I'm thinking Red Alert and like all these games that came out back then. Yeah, like Kevin Spacey and like all these people were in these games even that far back. Mm-hmm. And like you said, they look just like them. They talk like them. I mean, it's like
just look at Mark Hamill. He's had several video games and several times like he's even been on some of like Sega CGI.
Yeah.
Where it was full video and he's in there. It's like, how do they afford Michael McDonald and
that's what I'm saying. They got to be getting paid pretty well, I would think. I don't.
The change is crazy.
We'll ask, maybe next week we'll ask Lucy. Hey,
exactly.
Is it lucrative? Like,
how's that work?
How's it going?
Exactly.
Is it paying the bills? That's the biggest question.
But more changing happening. Disney came out. Disney Plus, their streaming service is going to be called Disney Plus.
Disney Plus.
And it's official. They're starting their own Loki TV series.
Yes.
So, this is going to be pretty interesting. I'm guessing
so is that
it's going to
saying
go
that
back.
he survived Infinity War then?
See, yeah, that...
But I think it's going to be like before all that.
You
maybe
think prequel
on
how he became the god of mischief.
On Asgard.
Like what happens when Thor's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an interesting take. It could be.
Or maybe some about his childhood and like how he, I know they kind of or showed it and talked about it in some of the movies, but maybe elaborating a little bit more on where he comes from and what his people were
I'd love to see all the times he tries to kill Thor. All the time. He tries to
there could be one episode.
Exactly.
A montage.
Just
so all of a sudden he was a giant snake and he knew I liked snakes and all of a sudden he came off a knife and stabbed me.
Well, and other characters, because Loki throughout the comics has had many storylines that didn't involve Thor and stuff where he would manipulate other characters.
Yeah.
There's a great storyline where he actually manipulated the Hulk.
Oh, shit.
And, got into his head and made Hulk fight it had nothing to do with Thor.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of storylines like that where I think they could just have, he's the god of mischief. Yeah. They could have him like all over the place messing with all kinds of.
Was that before or after he smashed Loki back and forth?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That would be before.
Before, okay.
That's why he smashed him back and forth.
Exactly.
Get out of my house.
Oh man. But a lot of news going around, especially the news about J.J. Abrams looking for like a mega deal and a place to call home, like an actual studio to back him in all of his projects.
Yeah, he's.
I think he'd be perfect at Disney. I'm
think
not
so
even gonna lie.
Well, he's been perfect at Disney. He's been working with Disney.
This mega deal
the
he
Star
wants
Wars
to do,
and Hulu's Castle Rock. Yeah.
Yeah, so what he wants to do now is just take everything under his Bad Robot umbrella. He wants to do film, television, video games, merchandising, VR, music, everything under his Bad Robot, and he wants to park it at a studio.
Yeah.
And he wants a whole lot of money to do it. And they would have like exclusive rights to distributing everything that he's pumping out. But he's looking for like a huge payday.
So that'd be Disney or, I hate to say it, Apple.
Well, apparently there's several studios that are now hardcore fighting
going
for it.
after it.
But
yeah.
I think, I mean, look, the track record speaks for itself. I mean, if you're going to pony up the money and have somebody come in and just do their thing with autonomy, and you just get out of their way and give them money and let them do their thing. Disney has proven time and time again with Lucasfilms, with Marvel, with Pixar, they can buy you and just give you the money.
Exactly.
And then
but you know who's also really hands off like that? Netflix.
Netflix
is really hands off like that.
And they've got a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so...
And they need a lot more sign-on right now. They need some big
If Netflix
name
got J.J.
sign-on.
Abrams, that'd be insane.
It would be crazy.
Yeah. That'd be a huge win.
And I mean, I don't know. Disney's pretty tight with him, though.
I know.
I mean, so...
I think that's going to happen. But I'm just saying, if Netflix got the opportunity... That would be a huge win.
And like Chris said, you can't rule out Apple.
Yeah, exactly.
Or even
as
Amazon.
Much as I don't want to say that. I don't want to say Apple. I don't want to see him have exclusive stuff on Apple where I have to go to get the Apple Store downloaded.
No, but I think Apple's going to expand beyond that, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do think when they make their full out, bam, we're going to produce a bunch of stuff.
Here's our streaming
It's going to go beyond that. So...
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see, but good luck. I mean, this guy is, I mean, JJ kind of did it, you know, the started off with Bad Robot, had a couple hits.
Yeah.
Was, you know, hung his shingle at a couple of different studios, produced some content for them, and has proven himself, I guess, over a period of time, you know, and he's done TV, he's done movies, he's done, so now he's like, hey, I want to do it all one place, one home, and a whole lot of money.
Yeah, I was just thinking now, all the great shows I watched with Bad Robot on it. Oh, man.
That's what I'm saying. Bad Robot. I mean, he's done a lot of stuff. And I wonder how involved he's going to be in the new Alias reboot.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you know, it's his show. I mean, you can't say he's not going to be involved.
Yeah.
And is that going back to ABC? Is ABC the one rebooting it? And then that's Disney.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, you know, he's currently doing the final Star Wars. Yeah. And then if Alias goes to ABC, it seems like
it's all connected.
Come to Disney.
Yeah. Just
come
like
Disney.
It's all connected.
You know, we'll see.
Oh, my goodness.
Speaking of Disney and, you know.
And other self-starters. Jimmy Kimmel launching his own Kimmel-Lot production company.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome name, Kimmel-Lot.
Yeah. Same thing. Again, he's going to develop and produce unscripted and scripted projects for digital, for TV, for film, for all different kinds of media, and he wants to do it all under one banner and have control of it. A lot of people, don't know. He's also already in a company with Adam Carolla for you know, and he's going to stay in that because that's currently the company behind his show, his late night show. So he's going to stay in with that, but moving forward, everything else that he's going to do is going to be under Kimmel-Lot and going with the stuff.
Because how many times has he tricked the internet? How many times has he put something out there and made the internet blow up and then like, ha, that was my joke.
Yeah.
Got you all.
Well, I mean, it just goes back to kind of what we were talking about with JJ, is that this is the move now. It's all self-contained.
Yeah,
Everybody wants to bring it all into one little thing.
Exactly.
And they handle the merchandising, they handle the music, they handle the, you know, every little aspect of every project that they do.
Yep.
Instead of having all these different components, you know, that are involved in it.
It gives you a lot more control. I mean, if
Right.
you have one company trying to handle merchandise and then that company decides to go belly up or not do the order that you wanted, then you can always change that up a bit.
Or you run
have
into
that
the
where you have
problem-
more control. Like, okay, well, we just need to get rid of that manager and put this new person.
Or
in
you run
charge.
into the problem that Disney has with Marvel, with the licensing.
Yeah.
You know, like they made the deal with Universal prior to, but now they're kind of stuck to that, you know? So, I mean, if you have it all contained into one little, this is all me, I do everything, it's all you. You either swim or sink based on all you. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting.
I was learning about that a little bit with Star Wars back in the day when Lucas renegotiated instead of a higher director salary, he got to keep all of the rights to the merchandising, which was not as big of a deal back in the day,
right?
And which was really smart on his part. But then because he was not very well known and because he didn't have his own toy distribution company or access to it, he had to create another deal with somebody else and like a bunch of toy companies turned him down. Mattel,
Mm-hmm.
Hasbro, they all turned it down.
Damn.
And then Kennel out of like, I think it was Ohio or something like that.
That sounds right.
They actually accepted it, but they got 95% of the profits, which was, I mean, he couldn't really bargain for something better and didn't really know to bargain for something better at the time because they couldn't anticipate how huge of a boom it was going to be for the Star Wars toys. But it's really interesting. But yeah, so if he were able to do it all himself, which he probably would have done because he seemed interested in that anyway at the time, it probably worked out real different.
Yeah.
And how many companies kick themselves now? Like you talking about Mattel and all the others, and then Fox themselves is just like, oh man, they made so much more money.
Right.
Well, and Netflix, I mean, they're the ones kind of like kicking it all out. They're the real first ones who have kind of like brought it all in and said, we're going to do everything.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to own the music.
Exactly.
We're going to own every single aspect of our original programming we own.
Yeah.
And I mean, so now everybody's kind of chasing that model.
Hell yeah.
But it makes sense. I mean, why wouldn't you want to do that?
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
So
Craziness. Well, you brought up Star Wars.
Yep, we're on Star Wars.
Yep. Remember that Rogue One character? I don't know how to say his name.
Cassian Andor.
Cassian
Thank you, because I couldn't even
Yeah.
I was looking at it.
is getting his own Star Wars story.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's gonna be pretty epic.
Yep. And that's also going to be on Disney Plus.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Yeah.
In which that's what I've been saying the whole time. If they're gonna make these prequel movies like Solo or like the Lando one, freaking put it on the streaming service.
Yeah.
And people responded really well to Cassian. That's another thing we were learning about in my Star Wars class. Is that was Rogue One was one of the first movies to really, I think because it was the only movie that was self-contained and not part of another trilogy. To really be able to expand in diversity and having a female lead that was really not very much gendered. Her gender wasn't brought up as much as women usually are.
Yeah.
And then to have Cassian, to have a Latino actor and to have him keep his accent, that was a huge thing for the Latino community. That were like really amazed that he was allowed to sound Mexican instead of having to hide it or whatever. So I think that would be a huge boost for them to kind of go back to a character that did really well, that responded really well with audiences and expand on it.
Yeah.
He was a good actor too.
Oh yeah, that was just like, I would love to see a Star Wars story. But I mean, it's like you don't have to do full movies on a streaming source.
Right.
You can always make these in the short, like TV miniseries type stuff. But
limited series or
the good thing about like these streaming services though with the original series is that it's like every like creator that I've heard talk about their involvement in these things, they all attack it as a film. It's like a 13 episode or 13 segment film. And they said, but the beauty is that you get to stretch it out. You get to tell this story instead of trying to condense it to 2 hours. You get 13 hours to tell and to develop. So like J-Lo said, it's
the best of both worlds, the best of TV world, the
over
best of the movie
13
world.
episodes, you can find out what's working and what isn't. And like in a 2-hour movie, you got to hope it all hits, or but over 13, after a couple episodes, you can go, maybe we tweak this character or that character, and kind of like it's a great proving ground, I think. And then you can expand. And I mean, Disney with Marvel is going the other way. They're taking ones that they have already been successful on the screen and bringing them to
the television
so that they can play more around. So I think it works both ways, but it's definitely a great idea to introduce things and like, hey, are people going to catch on to this? Will it be okay?
Agreed.
And like, so we'll see how much that expands, but I'm excited. And I guess Favreau's Star Wars series is going on there as well, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, they still haven't said a whole lot about that.
He released like a few pictures and stuff, but other than that, no, it's been pretty quiet.
Disney's been trying to keep really closed on everything, like every spoiler, everything. They've been making jokes about like the Avengers 4 project, Hulk releasing the information. He didn't. It was a joke.
Right.
Trying to mess with everybody. It's a joke. Ha ha.
It's a master plan.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Favreau fan though. I love his style of telling a story and his film work, and I'm excited. I think it's it's gonna be good. Okay, here's one I'm not excited about.
Some more people testing waters.
Yeah,
and shit.
expanding into let's make movies.
Yeah.
So The Walking Dead apparently has Rick is not gone. He's not dead.
No.
He's not going anywhere. Yeah, it's okay. So
Very
he
confused.
flew off in a helicopter. He's going to be starring in minimum 3, maybe more Walking Dead films that are going to expand Rick Grimes' story.
Yeah. But didn't he leave Michonne and his Judith and everything?
He did. And they all think he's dead.
What?
Yeah. They all think he's dead.
This is why I don't want to watch.
I'm so confused.
Yeah. Okay. So they saw that he got basically spoilers. Everybody, spoilers who hasn't seen it. He basically got impaled. Okay. And they all thought he was dying and that he was basically going to die. So they've been hinting really since season 1 at this like helicopter, this like secret kind of helicopter thing that's been, if you paid really close attention, was always kind of popping up or whatever. And if you remember the old trash lady, you know, who's now part of their group, right? Apparently her and Rick got on the helicopter and flew off.
The fuck?
And that's how he left the show. They're going to pick up with films based on Rick Grimes and his continued story, and I guess with her, and so all this. Then the show jumped like 6 years ahead. So now little Judith is like a preteen. Yeah. And she's wearing Carl's hat. She's got a little Michonne sword. Yeah. And like Rick Grimes still on the show, technically, because it's Rick Grimes Jr., RJ, who is Michonne and Rick's kid.
Oh, what?
Yeah,
what? Like, I did not see that happen.
Okay, and here's the thing. Jeez. Even all of the fans figured out that Michonne was pregnant. Yeah. They were dropping hints left and right that Michonne was pregnant. You can't tell me Rick didn't get it. Yeah. So Rick is just going to get in a helicopter after all the struggle with Carl, keeping Carl alive, Carl! It's all about the future. Carl! It's Carl! You know, and then, is Judith mine? Is she not mine? Right. But I'm going to treat her like mine and everything. So then you finally find happiness with Michonne. Yeah. You got Judith. You can't be ignorant to know that Michonne is pregnant. You're just going to get on a fucking helicopter and leave. After all that, you're just going to leave them all.
It's like the trash lady likes to be naked.
No, that's what I was about to say. He's going to get central with the trash lady.
That's right. So
no, it sounds like that politician who's like the wife got cancer and all of a sudden he went to Thailand.
Yeah. It's really
weird.
I
just
don't know.
to have like prostitute sex. It's like weird.
Apparently, it's not just Rick. Several of them have signed on long-term deals to do movies, including Carol and Daryl. And apparently they're working out something with Maggie to do. And they could cross over into each other's movies. Yeah.
I mean, Daryl, like they put him on lock. They're like, they
signed him long term. But the part of that long term to keep him on the show was also for the movies.
Yeah.
So, and there was question whether they were going to be theatrically released or what they were. But apparently they're going to be original films, like a Netflix original film. But it's an AMC original film, and they're going to be doing this with several of the Walking Dead characters.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
I saw the TV ratings, like they seem steady, but I mean they're still lower than average, but they're steady. They haven't dropped crazy since he left.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, man. All this shit makes me not want to watch it.
You have to wonder, when is it considered jumping the shark?
Yeah.
You know, when is it just going too far?
I think when they killed Carl.
Yeah.
Carl.
Honestly, a little piece of my heart died for that show when they killed Glenn.
Yeah. A lot of people. A lot of people.
That was accurate storyline.
I know.
Everybody knew that was coming.
I didn't. And I wasn't ready.
But they didn't go far enough with Carl when he got the eye shot out. You know, Carl was supposed to be like this epic storyline. It's Jeffrey Dean Morgan has said countless times. It's the only reason he signed on is because he was a fan of the books and he knew the storyline between Negan and Carl and Rick.
Yeah.
And how it went down is that basically Carl becomes this like fucking epic badass. Yeah. And he takes control of everything. And in his world, it's either black or white. There is no, you're either good or you're bad. And this is the way it's going to be. And so there was this mutual respect and admiration between Negan and Carl. And they developed like this relationship to where they're basically running things together. And Rick and Negan eventually work together, whether it's all kind of a, hey, are we stabbing each other kind of a thing, you don't know. But they work together, and Carl is like this epic guy, and it never played out. Never got to see that
then
relationship.
You just said there's a Rick Jr.
There is, but I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
No, there's where they're trying to fix it. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to do
He's a
fix.
little young though for Negan to be like, buddy with him. I mean,
that's just the start of it.
I'm done.
I mean, so I
don't want to.
I was really looking forward to that whole storyline. I was like so excited, and it took so long. But then they finally shot Carl's eye out. I'm like, here we go. Yeah, it's gonna finally happen. And we're gonna see the. And he started to get a little bit more aggressive, and you're thinking, yeah, they're gonna do it. And then
then he dies.
Then he dies. Like, and now like a character that isn't even in the books is like
the main
number
person
one on the call sheet.
Yeah,
Daryl.
Yeah,
like I love Norman Reedus.
Yeah,
and I love Daryl.
Yeah,
it's a great addition to the show, and I think it's fantastic. But I wanted to see the other storyline.
Exactly,
I wanted to see the other storyline.
Do not understand.
And I think, like you said, while they were steady, they are way down. And I think maybe people just tuned in that first week after to find out
what it was
post Rick what it was. And now that they know,
it should be interesting. Oh goodness!
Not a fan though. Not a fan of this idea of movies.
Yeah,
like just
something else. A lot of fans are not a fan of. Netflix has decided to cancel Orange Is the New Black. It's gonna end after season 7. But Lionsgate is kind of working on a sequel series, so we shall see.
Yeah, I mean.
And I mean, that's a big show for Netflix to lose.
It is.
Yeah, that's one of their pyramid shows. I mean,
so you're losing, Orange
but
is the
like
New Black
fans
and
of
House
Walking
of
Dead,
Cards.
fans of Orange is the New Black is kind of see that a little bit because it had a little teetering off.
So now basically back to back, you're losing Orange Is the New Black
and House of Cards,
which are really the two series that built Netflix's original programming.
Yeah.
Well, it's not necessarily like they chose to lose House of Cards.
They could have continued without Kevin Spacey. They chose to end it with the 6th season.
Yeah, but even you said the 7th season.
It was not the same.
Yeah, you said it wasn't good.
It was not very good. I would have ended it after that too.
Hands down, should have ended it.
Hands down. And I'll be talking about that, hands down.
Yeah.
It should have. It was not good.
Yeah.
It just was not the same. And they mentioned him countless times in every episode, but it just was not the same.
Yeah.
So, and Robin Wright, God bless her, she did a great job as Claire, but the storyline just wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I just.
Yeah. I think they're going to try with this Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
That one was really good.
You like that one?
I really liked it.
Oh, man. I did
really
not.
did.
But they are releasing a Christmas special. So.
Wait.
How does Satan celebrate Christmas? I want to know.
Like, before we go to that, why didn't you like it?
I was kind of I only watched 2 episodes, so I'm only 2 episodes in.
You don't get to say you didn't like it if you didn't even finish half of it.
I'm not. Why we got to talk about like witches and witchcraft and demons and Satan and?
Well, I'm just gonna say
he just wants to be a good Christian boy.
I just want to be a good Christian boy.
I haven't even watched it yet, but I could hear him watching it, and it sounded like just not interesting. And the acting. Now, granted, I wasn't watching it; I was just listening to it, but. It sounded awful. I mean, Sabrina sounded like she was straight up just reading from the fucking script. I was like, what is going on? And can we really talk about the real problem? It's fucked up Riverdale. Like, Sabrina has
there's a lot
Riverdale.
of similar stuff that's going on. Yeah. But why did you like it? Let's hear your side before we go.
Wow, they shat all over it. Now they're gonna come to you.
Now I gotta clean it up.
Right.
No, I thought it was interesting. I thought it was because I really liked Sabrina as a kid growing up, the original show, and I like it whenever they redo something, but it's very, very different. Don't try to redo it in the same way. Do something different with it, and that's what I thought was interesting. Is that it was like, I just thought it brought in some more realism to it. There are people who really believe in that kind of stuff,
That's true.
Which I think is interesting. I don't believe in it, but I think that it's interesting to see a more realistic take on the occult and that sort of thing. And then I just thought it was kind of that interesting story of somebody who's caught between good and evil. And I thought her acting, if maybe you need to see her act, because she does
watch her.
because she's got. I thought it was pretty realistic. There's a lot of times she has to be very emotional in that movie, and she cries a whole bunch, and it looks pretty real to me. So
I'll admit to it. I'll guilty pleasure of Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Well,
from
what I understand, it's much closer to the source material because this little sitcom was not anywhere close.
Wasn't it a comic book or whatever?
Yeah, it was. was. It was one of the Archie comics. But it also, I liked that they kind of tied it into the original, because to me, that girl looks kind of like
she does.
The original Sabrina, and so do the ants. They're similar, and they like even personality and stuff. And I don't know, I just thought it was,
and that's why it goes right into Riverdale, because of Archie comics.
Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit though, because I'm a huge fan of Riverdale, and I was really liking the storyline and the way that was all playing out, but. There's been talk of the whole Sabrina and Riverdale crossover, even though one's on Netflix and one is not. And so they're setting up that crossover by introducing like all the satanic shit into Riverdale. Just like out of nowhere. And it's like, it doesn't make sense with the storyline. And it was just kind of like,
maybe I hold kind of a grudge towards it because of that.
Well, I can understand that. I can understand how that would not work for them. Because the only time that Riverdale's mentioned at all in Sabrina is in passing, whenever, you know, they just like, oh, do you girls go to Riverdale? And they're like, no, we go to Eat Your Heart Out school. Not really. But, you know, they basically were like,
it will be interesting to see how the crossover happens.
And
if Riverdale reverts after the crossover, like, you know, to try to like
goes back.
But I'm a huge Berlanti fan, Greg Berlanti, and I trust him, and that's his little universe there. So if he's working something, I'm just gonna
just let him do it
with it, and like, you know.
All I have to say is just open your heart up a little bit to Satan. Just let him touch your heart a little bit, and just
apparently
see where it goes.
Satan not so happy with them though.
Oh, I saw that.
Big lawsuit over the satanic
like $50 million, some shit.
But
I reviewed Chilling Adventures of Sabrina on Fantastic Review, so if you guys want to go listen to that,
and don't count if you only watch 2 episodes.
Okay, I'll watch more, and I might give a later review. But anyway. Since Tavia is scorching my ass with some heat, nice let's talk about these California wildfires.
Oh, man.
Man.
Was that bad? Was that a bad segue?
And now, I mean, there's like...
Kind of.
Okay.
Well, it's a really bad situation.
It is.
Really bad.
It is a bad
Neil Young, Miley Cyrus, Martin Sheen. We saw a tweet. Martin Sheen and like the Sheen family had to sleep in their car or whatever, and Gerard Butler
picking up his house and just kind of like he was an emotional wreck.
So
and just distraught. Like you could just see the 1,000-yard stare in his face of I just lost everything.
Yeah, I mean,
the
Malibu community. I mean, I'm sure most of our listeners know is just entrenched with celebrities.
Yeah,
and so they're like, you know, a lot of them have lost everything and everything. But the one thing that stuck out to me, there's a couple of things with the celebrities, and Gerard Butler made a nice statement saying, "Hey, look, I'm just one of thousands who's lost everything, and I have means. There are some people who have lost everything who will not be able to rebuild, and I will be able to rebuild." And so I thought it was very, you know, open of him to say, hey, look, I'm in a position where while this really sucks, I can rebuild, and some people won't be able to, and I understand that. And then to further that, there's been a lot of stories and a lot of reports of all the celebrities who are actually, many of them who have lost everything are more focused on donating the money and doing fundraisers for the firefighters and their families and stuff going on, or rescuing the animals for the people who had animals but don't have the means to get the animals out and everything. So while they've already lost all their stuff, they're more focused on where else they can be of help to people. And so, you know, you hear all kinds of bad stuff about celebrities all the time, their vanity and how they're only out for themselves and they only, you know, but there are a collective group that every time a tragedy happens, they're there. And like, so it's nice to hear these stories about how they're doing that, you know.
Well, I mean, we saw that story about James Woods, like trying to help some animals.
Like literally himself physically trying to get animals out of there. And so, it's devastating. I mean, you look at Malibu and it looks like a film set, like a bomb had gone off in some war.
It's a little apocalypse area. You can go down the street and you see all the burnt out cars, all the news.
It's just
really, really.
And then, you know, and then you got the campfire down in the south. It's Woolsey and Campfire. And now they just said like a third one broke out near San Bernardino. That's kind of like, right now is kind of small but spreading, and they've got those crazy Santa Ana winds that are causing all kinds of problems. And
that's the big thing is the winds is just fueling the fire and pushing it so much harder, giving it tons of oxygen and spreading it out to where even firefighters can't do anything. Right. They have to rescue themselves out of that scenario.
They just it's so dangerous because you'll get those embers and they'll just travel and then pop up fires. Yeah, like exactly. we just read the other day that the Los Angeles Zoo was evacuated because another fire broke out in Griffith Park. I mean, that's
they couldn't. I think they couldn't get everybody out. I think the giraffe and several other animals had to be left.
Yeah, Goodness and that's gracious. Like the third or fourth fire this year in Griffith Park, I think. So that it's like they just pop up. Yeah. They had to evacuate the observatory a few months back. Wow. Where the fire was coming up the hill, basically, and they're like.
And you have so much less time. Like, I mean, we're familiar with natural disasters, and we've been through things like that before too. And of course. Bringing back to losing everything, we also understand that no matter how much money you have, no matter how much stuff you have, there are things that you lose that you cannot rebuy. Yeah, and exactly. so that's something that anyone who's been through something like this, even though we had the opposite element happen to us with water, but we've experienced that too. But at least with hurricanes, you have a little bit of time where that they're coming. You kind of have some time to prepare. With this kind of stuff, like you were saying, it could just come up out of nowhere.
You brought up a great point, and even. When it's giant like it is now, fire's so unpredictable.
Right.
They can be digging the trenches and trying to control and try to divert it and everything, but all of a sudden it'll jump the interstate and move and it's so unpredictable that it's almost impossible when it starts to get that large to figure out what it's going to do. So you're basically at the mercy of...
It's scary.
I forget if it was a mayor or a governor saying this is not the new normal, it's the new abnormal.
Yeah, it's the outgoing governor. Yeah, Jerry Brown. And I don't even want to discuss Trump blaming, the forestry people and there are people dead, bro. There are people dead. This is not the time to play politics and criticize. Just give them. And he threatened to withhold the federal money.
Are you serious?
Yeah, come on, man. He basically said the Forestry Commission in the state of California needs to get their shit together or no more federal money.
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me? Throw money at them. Their entire state is burning. People are dying. Don't play politics. Just do what you got to do at this point. Then say whatever you're going to say. But I mean, just on the same week that he said respect the presidency and the office of the president. Yeah. But really, you're going to throw out shit like that and then say people should respect.
Hey, what's that weird phrase? You got to earn respect to get respect.
I mean, this guy's he's got to show respect for the office and the presidency before anybody can show that.
I've said this before. I'll say it again. I don't, regardless of what, political beliefs or economic beliefs or anything like that, I can disagree with whoever's in office, but I at least want to feel like they care about people.
Right.
And I don't feel like he does. No. And, even like I said, even if I had total polar opposite ideas about people, I felt like at least presidents of the past gave a shit.
Right.
Yeah.
And
exactly. And there's how do you even begin to play politics in a situation like that? Yeah. Like you said, it should just be human compassion. Yeah. People are dying. People are losing everything they own, and you're going to use it as an opportunity to play a political game or attack politically someone. I mean, that's just insane. And then, like you said, you can tell he doesn't. Okay, just my opinion. I'm not going to try to defame or slander or libel anybody, but in my opinion, you can tell he doesn't care because he makes a tweet like that, and then clearly people around him were like, "Oh shit, you can't," because then he followed it up with, "Oh, our hearts go out to the firefighters and everybody." But that's not what you said first. Yeah. What you said first is how you really feel. Exactly. Then when you got the "oh shit" meter, then you put out the statement supposedly compassionate about the people.
The better way to do it is more of, let's right now help everybody out.
Right.
Then later on, go down the line and start having an audit of the Forestry Commission. Mm-hmm. You start, as a president, go in and send an investigating team to find out why the failure happened, and let's try to find fixes. Let's not, casting blame doesn't do anything. It's already done.
Well, and it's already too late. You're clearly not educated on what's going on. How can you say that it's somebody's fault when you don't even understand? Yeah. If you don't do an audit of it, then you're outside of the situation. You don't know how things work. You don't know what's going on. So how are you to blame anybody? if you're ignorant of
well,
it.
and sometimes there's no explanation. It's Mother Nature.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sometimes Mother Nature's just going to fuck you up, and there's nothing you can do about it.
There was one that was started by this couple that was driving, and they were pulling a trailer, and it was a legal trailer. Like, everything was fine. It was a freak accident where the wheel popped off, the thing sparked, and that's what started it.
Right.
That could happen to anybody.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So-
that's just situations that happen.
It's an ignorant statement, and you got to be. And our hearts go out to all of them. If you can donate, we did. Crazy Ant donated to some of the relief out there for the animals and the firefighters' families and stuff. And if you can do that, because, like you said, we're more than familiar, and we've gone through, and if not for the donations and the help of so many people from the outside when we went through that, and you'd be surprised.
American Red Cross was even talking about they still have boots on the ground in Florida, and now they're needing more help for people in California, and they needing more donations to help people, because they do a lot of help, especially with a fire situation.
You don't have to be rich to help.
For that.
You'd be surprised how far $5 or $10 goes when they're needing supplies and they're needing to do things or whatever. Exactly. So don't feel like if you don't have, because I know I can only give $5. Well, but that $5 is going to go a long way for somebody.
Volunteering in the Red Cross, I could see like they could work with a corporation to buy something at the rock bottom price, just at the bare minimum manufacturing price for stuff to help people in a situation, or to help them get into a housing, help them deal with the insurance or deal with this and that, the other stuff. Yeah,
right. And then, before we got a couple more things, but kind of playing into what we just talked about, though, we got to kind of bring it up because it kind of plays into what we do as well. Because this on our podcast, and we give opinions, and we interview people, and we do things, and it's kind of, we have the luxury and the freedom to say whatever we want, So this whole battle going on between Trump and CNN, and just because you didn't like what a reporter said to you, or he was aggressive in asking the same question several times, you just yank his press credentials and kick him out of the White House. Like, it
was personal. It's just like it became a personal attack to him, and he took it way personal. More was trying to.
But it is a freedom of the press and freedom of speech and freedom of expression, and you can't just start picking and choosing the rights that you give to people because you disagree with them or don't like them. And then he threatened to do it to others if he didn't get along with them. And it's like, listen, man, just because they're not saying something that doesn't make you look good, or they're saying something that disagrees with you can't just start ripping rights away from people.
Right. It's one thing if they actually do, if they have actions that are disrespectful, if they, are throwing stuff or being aggressive or whatever, showing their ass to people. I mean, who knows? But if they're just talking and just, asking questions.
And repeatedly asking a question that you don't want to answer, that doesn't mean you... And the reason I bring it up and how it involves us is because, think about if he starts doing this, or the government literally would start picking and choosing who gets rights and who doesn't, and who can say what, then you're talking about like when you're going to communist nations with state-run television and state-run radio. We wouldn't even be able to have a podcast. It'd be because it would have to be monitored about what we were allowed to say or not say, and it would all have to go through. And so while a lot of people, don't pay attention to politics or whatever, but if you pay attention to it will trickle down to all sorts of things to where you may not be able to do what you're doing if something were to change along those lines.
Right.
So it's important to be addressed and say it's not okay. Which, if you notice why all the studios are coming out backing CNN and saying, don't do this because CNN sued to get the credentials back, because it is important. Jesus
Well, even
Christ.
this headline, I just pop up Twitter right now. It says Fox News says it will support CNN in the legal action against the White House.
Right, absolutely.
Wow, and that's coming from the right side of it. They lean right more, but they comes from that other side.
You're right. And while there is liberal media and mainstream conservative media and all this kind of different, they're all grouped together when it comes to, hey, we have the right to do this, and we're all going to stand together and say you can't take that right away from us, and that's the right thing. I mean, so hopefully this all gets resolved, and
seriously.
because if not, that we're playing a dangerous game. And we like to talk every week.
Exactly.
So let's say, let's keep this shit out of the where it's supposed to be.
I'm enough a hacker. We'll make sure of it.
We'll make sure it happens.
It'll be put out somewhere. Going out. I'll get my old pirate gear out and everything.
It'll be put out somewhere. Oh man.
Yeah.
But MTV is getting a part of diversifying.
Diversity.
Yeah. Move into live events. They're going to be focused on youth cable situation where they want to perform like a music festival for the youth. 3-day event that runs like December 29th through the 31st. It's pretty epic. I mean, giving back.
Yeah, this is like a huge music fest that takes place in Lake Tahoe during Christmas or something.
Yeah.
And so MTV is like trying to jump on this live event stuff.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, because people aren't watching MTV much
had
anymore, and they went far away from
J-Lo
what they
and I were like
music
going on a
television.
rant about this the other day
Yeah.
about how the MTV just needs to be MTV again, damn it, and like just
seriously.
be music television.
I was saying like they should just have a streaming platform that's just for what it was meant for back in the day, just strictly music videos or strictly music entertainment, like music
don't they have that where
documentaries
it's
or like storytellers.
kind of more classic, where it is more of the classic base of music videos, or is that older music videos?
I have
Wasn't that
no
MTV
idea.
too?
Yeah,
That was supposed to be MTV2. MTV2 now just re-airs
Then it just
older.
turned into-
well, and then it was
TV shows.
VH1, and like they kept
Yeah.
like changing all of these things, but
Exactly.
and like I said, we
People
talked
want
about it a
the
little
music
bit, but
videos.
I think it's kind of ironic because I think now the reason that they're trying to diversify, which is a smart move because you have to keep relevant, but I think that what MTV and music videos basically did to the radio genre back in the day, music radio, back in the day, YouTube has done to them. Because you go
Videos
to
killed the
YouTube and
radio star.
It's
Vivo
all
to
right
watch
there.
all your music
Yeah.
videos. You don't go to MTV anymore. You go
No.
to YouTube to watch
YouTube and
or-
Vimeo.
So
Yeah.
exactly. So it's ironic that, a new type of format
Vivo.
would come along
That's what
and
it is.
boost,
Yeah.
basically boot you out of the way of what you were traditionally
Exactly.
known for. But I think MTV made it easy to be booted out of the way because they strayed away from what they were known for.
Exactly.
So,
Went straight for reality TV, which now they're having to battle Facebook for that because Jersey Shore is now on like the Facebook Watch thing. So.
Yeah, and Netflix announced recently they're getting into the reality TV game with an
Oh, really?
unscripted music series. So that's going to be interesting. Pia Toscano is one of the people on it, from an old American Idol contestant or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like basically these kind of people who are trying to make it in the music industry, and it's going to follow along them chasing after trying to get into the industry.
Yeah.
So and get a record deal. So
Interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And then we saw the convergence between streaming and digital and all that. Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve just announced a long-term deal with YouTube.
Yeah.
So they're going to be doing some streaming stuff involved with this. So
you don't need cable anymore.
No, man. And like we said, like with J.J. Abrams and Jimmy Kimmel and all these, and Netflix and all these people, it's all diverging into one little area where it's all self-contained.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
everything is going into this whole, and I think you're going to see more of these deals where we're not just this, but we're all of this, and we're going to do it all. And I mean, it makes sense.
It does make sense.
It absolutely makes sense. So, yeah.
It is now time for our special guest segment. This week we have the one and only Scott Takeda, born from Colorado. Man, it's going to be really cool to talk to him about some stuff about his previous things that he's done in the industry, and plus how he got into the industry in the first place. He started off on the news side. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, news side. His story coming up through LA and now he's bouncing back and forth between Colorado and LA. Very similar to how we're trying to make our way up through. So yeah, it's going to be really cool to talk to him. There he is. Hello.
Hi, this is Scott Takeda.
First of all, let us just say thank you so much for taking the time to call in and talk to us today. We appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, no worries.
So okay, we're really excited about this one because doing our research and kind of looking into your background and where you've come from and how you've been able to work your way up to where you are now, very similar to our own background. So we were kind of excited to talk about that. Started off in news, local news. We did the same thing. We actually met at a news station, kind of along the same lines. Got together, started talking, formed a production company, and kind of followed that route. So we were really excited to talk to you about that. Was entertainment and acting, was that always the goal? Did you know you wanted to do that from early on, or was news like, this is what I want to do?
Great question. I think at the heart of things, I'm a visual storyteller.
Mm-hmm.
So, for me, I just enjoy and gravitate toward telling stories with pictures, whether or not I'm in front or behind the camera. Right. So I think that is kind of the through line for my life. I was a purist, however, when I started out in news. I mean, I thought I was going to help illuminate the viewers of wherever I was working to all the crazy underside of the bad stuff happening. So I think I had an initial thought process that I'd be working in investigative journalism and making a difference in the world, but just decided to change my pathway.
I see. Okay, and so we got to ask, because we're sitting here and we're completely unfamiliar. Is it Pocatello, Idaho? Is that correct?
Yeah, it's Pocatello, Idaho.
Okay.
Pocatello.
It's named after an old Indian chief.
Ooh.
Of the Shoshone Bannock tribe.
Okay.
And at the time, a little trivia question for all those listeners out there, it was the smallest television market that had the four affiliate TV stations, CBS, NBC, ABC, and Fox.
Oh, now that is interesting. That's a good Jeopardy question. Tuck that away.
Exactly.
That's a good one. Love it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's talk a little bit about some of your awards. I see that you won twice for Photographer of the Year.
Yeah, I was pretty fortunate. I won in Idaho, Idaho State Photographer of the Year, and then I won through the Ohio News Photographers Association.
Oh, nice.
Ohio Photographer of the Year. Was going for regional and national, but at a certain point, I just again, I think my interests were elsewhere, and I'm also a little smaller in stature. And back in the days, the cameras were much heavier.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So my body started breaking down. So I chose to move toward directing, where I could still get shots, but have someone else carry the gear.
Yeah. Interesting.
Completely understand that.
So that did that kind of start the transition from the news and trying to get behind the camera, more production oriented. And we'll talk about that, because I've noticed that not just with the acting, but you have a lot of directing and producing experience in the film and television side also. So just kind of curious as to when you decided to try to make that move, like from the news oriented goal or career to, hey, wait a minute, maybe I can get in front of the camera and have a little fun and do a little acting. When did that kind of come about, or what sparked that change?
I actually need to go back a little farther for you guys.
Sure.
Further. The first kind of transition is I was always wanting to be a reporter.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked as a reporter in Pocatello, Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
KIDK, News 3.
There you go.
And I looked really, really young. So there was no way for me to advance the career, in front of the camera. And for the listeners out there, the way you advance is you start at a tiny market and you live a very transient lifestyle, moving to larger and larger markets.
Yep.
And so the only way for me to advance the career and move to larger markets was to work behind the camera, where no one could see how incredibly young and high school like I was.
Yeah.
I was working in Denver, and I believe I was 27 at the time, and somebody thought that it was so great that the TV station was allowing high school kids to shoot news segments.
Wow.
That's fantastic.
So it's like I'm like 9 years out of high school,
right?
At that point, and it's like, oh well, thank you. So I think that was the first transition, is to move behind the camera, and then long and short of it, as I started climbing the ladder and eventually making it to market number 4 in Philadelphia, I think I got disillusioned.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of came in with really high-minded ideals. Never really was able to transition to investigative or do any kind of cool documentary kind of visual storytelling.
Right.
And just kind of ultimately also kind of got tired of climbing the ladder and going to larger and larger markets, where it just didn't seem like, why am I doing that? So I kind of moved around within a TV station and found different ways of telling stories. So when I moved to promo, which is producing all the internal, commercials for a TV station, I kind of learned how to tell stories in 30 seconds.
There you go.
In some cases, 15 in 10 seconds.
Yep.
And so I started learning that craft, and then worked in community fairs, and then worked in special projects where it's like, oh, cool. I started learning programming, how to do 30-minute shows, and then ultimately just move my way to sales, where it's like, okay, so this is how a business works. So, long story short, I kind of got a paid internship at a TV station to learn how to run a production company.
There you go. Absolutely.
To learn the business side of things, to learn different formats to tell stories in, from long format to extremely short format. And it was a really great training ground for me to eventually open up my doors and just go, you know what, let's move on. Because I think at the very tail end of it, the only job that I wanted at a TV station was to be the general manager. That's the one that's like, okay, I can get really jazzed about that.
Right.
But it required me to kind of climb the ladder again, to kind of go to a really small TV station and then climb the ladder. And it's like, I'm kind of tired of moving.
Understood.
So I just decided to form my own company.
There you go.
That's outstanding. Again, yeah, this is really interesting to listen to, because much along the same lines, I was always interested in the producing part of it as well. And I always had in the back of my mind, a producer is responsible for so many different people or so many different aspects of the film. And if you don't have any idea what any of those people do, how could you possibly be in charge of them or hire them or know? So I, amongst very much the same way you did, I took it as a training ground and a learning ground, and took every opportunity to learn every aspect that I could in every different part of the station. So it's really interesting to hear someone else say that they followed that same line and that it was successful for them as well. That's awesome. Congratulations on that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and so, okay, so you're young, and look young. Is that what kind of you're like, well, I can maybe do something with this in front of the camera again with the acting? How did the acting come out of that? Or did you start on the production side with your production company behind the camera and transition into front of the camera? Which one came first?
As strange as it seems, I have to credit Steven Seagal for the move in front of the camera.
Wow. Okay.
I know. Yeah. I do not know Steven Seagal.
No.
But when I was moving from Denver to Philadelphia, at that particular time, Colorado was a pretty decent production market for feature films. Right. And there was Die Hard 2, I think, was going to be shot here. And then Steven Seagal, when he was still making like the blockbusters, not the stuff he's doing now, which is kind of the direct-to-video type of stuff. Right. The blockbuster films. He was going to shoot a blockbuster film here in Colorado. And the radio stations at the time were saying, hey, open call if you'd like to be an extra. And, I was moving in 4 days. So it's like, wow, that seems like kind of fun. And then, I went out to the East Coast, and then where I have a lot of family, and found out that my cousins had worked as extras, as World War II Japanese soldiers, or as a jogger in the line of fire for Clint Eastwood.
Right.
So tiny, small, or the back of your head in a war film that no one knows who you are, but it's still like kind of fun.
Absolutely.
And that always kind of stuck in my mind, and I did miss telling stories in front of the camera. And so it kind of planted a seed in my mind of, well, maybe I can go back in front of the camera somehow, some way.
Right.
And that's eventually kind of how it kind of just manifested. When I moved back to Colorado, I formed, the production company, and then it's like, well, okay, maybe I'll take an acting class. And it just kind of went and went and went and went. And then before you know it, it's like, oh, I guess I'm an actor now.
Well, I mean, you've done pretty well, I would say, as an actor. I've been in definitely some stuff that I know our listeners know. Most recently, I'm a huge fan of Preacher. So, recognized you almost immediately from Preacher. Mm-hmm. Man in the High Castle.
Yes.
The Americans, huge fan of The Americans. So, I'd say you're doing pretty well as an actor.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, you're doing pretty well in all of the series, and you've done pretty well in film, Dallas Buyers Club, and several different things. So the transition back and forth. Do you like going back and forth? Would you ever do a Clint Eastwood type? I guess I'm asking. Would you ever want to direct yourself in a film or do a film where you're actually starring and directing? Or because you do, just looking at your resume, you do seem to be able to bounce back and forth pretty successly from behind the camera to in front of the camera. Is that an eventual goal, maybe?
Yes and no. I mean, last year we had a film that premiered at the Denver Film Festival and nearly won the top prize. So it's like, yay, but we're not quite there.
Right.
We ended up losing to a film that's probably going to be, an Oscar, without any joke. It's probably on the short list for Academy Awards next year. So, we take the runner-up, flag with a lot of pride because it's like outside of the one that's going to win the Oscar, we would have won the top prize.
Right. Absolutely.
But yeah, we did a 15-minute short where I was, both in front of the camera and directing it. That's hard to do, and kind of what I'm very envious at the Ben Afflecks of the world. That's our lovely dog right there. Is they've got studio budgets, so they can just shoot take after take after take, and then go back to Video Village and see what it is. And even Ben Affleck was explaining how he shot Argo, which is he would just shoot himself a lot of different ways,
right?
And then he would piece together his performance in the edit bay.
Interesting.
It's like, that's awesome if you can spend a half a day on one scene.
Exactly.
Have that time and money.
But it's a lot more challenging when you're on more of the indie film budget.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So we're doing our 30-minute short right now, which is our last short before our feature. I'm co-directing with my lovely bride, and I am in front of the camera in very, very small amounts. We feel that the story is more important than it is me getting FaceTime. And I know there are some actors out there where it's like, hey, I'm going to direct myself in my own thing, and that's going to be how I show myself as a lead. And that's very enviable to be able to do that. But for us, I think with our current film, Remembering Us, that we're shooting, we really want the focus to be on the story and not to be on me. So I would direct myself if I had like studio feature film budgets. That'd be awesome. That would be great.
Yeah.
Completely understand and much respect, because to hear someone say that the story is more important and that you're concerned more about what the film is saying and as opposed to trying to get the FaceTime.
Yeah.
Much respect for that, because like you said, there's a lot of people out there that aren't like that or not willing to make that type of a sacrifice to get the film made or try to tell their message. And I mean, just speaking to you just from the get-go, we've heard the term storyteller from out, and you can tell that you have a passion for telling stories. So, and I think that has a lot to do with what you just said about more important for the script than it is for the FaceTime. So much respect for that, really.
Well, and thanks. And that's not to take anything away from those out there who are directing themselves and able to put themselves as a lead. And maybe they're able to just multitask. I just have never really found the capacity for me to be able to multitask because I find the acting space and the directing space to kind of be separate spaces for me. It's still storytelling,
right?
But for me, it splits my head when I'm trying to do both, and I feel like it just sacrifices what we're trying to do.
So, do you have a preference? Like, I guess, because you've done producing, directing, acting. Do you like the business side of it as much as as the creative side to it? Or because I kind of like the business side of it, and I know a lot of people like to choose one or the other, but I like to think of myself as a creative and enjoy the business side of it.
Yeah.
Do you have one or the other that you prefer?
There's an interesting question, especially from all of us coming from TV news background, and for the listeners out there, it's like in television news, they use the same terminology like producer and director that they do for the TV film world,
right?
But they mean different things. So in many ways, in TV news, producer meant
writer.
Storyteller.
Writer, exactly.
And so it took me a while to get used to the concept of a producer being the person that basically problem solves and is not necessarily involved with a lot of creative direction.
Right.
I work with a filmmaking group called BS Filmworks, and we're essentially 3, Emmy Award-winning storytellers. And so we kind of rotate the directing responsibilities around. I don't necessarily mind the producing the business side aspect of it because it's ultimately laying the groundwork for our ability to tell a cool story.
Right.
And I think if I was just producing without understanding or wanting or just to be a hired gun and say, okay, well let's go get some locations and let's go find some funding.
Right.
It's less exciting that way. But if you're involved in the project and you believe in the story, it's a lot easier. So I would say I enjoy the business aspect with a major asterisk, as in that I really need to believe in the story that we're telling.
I guess we always try to, because we do have a lot of listeners that are trying to get into the industry. We get constant emails and everything. And so we like to ask our guests always. And we've been really fortunate to have people like yourself and different guests who have come up in different ways and kind of followed different paths to get to what they're doing now. So what advice would you give someone trying to get into the industry, either behind or in front of the camera? What do you find works? What do you find didn't work for you? You mentioned you took classes as an actor. We've had a lot of people tell our listeners, that it's important to take classes and learn the craft. But what advice would you have for people trying to get in, and maybe even what pitfalls would you say to look out for or avoid?
I think first and foremost, this is a business that works on the apprenticeship model. So unlike I'm trying to think, engineering per se, where you can get a college degree in this and come out with that college degree and have a really fundamental understanding of what it would be like to get an entry-level job at an engineering firm.
Right.
That's not how this business is learned. And so for the listeners out there that happen to be in a market, at a production market where there is some kind of work happening, like commercials or maybe TV film, if you can somehow get an internship, get an apprenticeship or something like that, just so you can hang out and just kind of see how it works, and then eventually try to work your way into some kind of low-paid job where you have the ability to learn under masters.
Yes.
And it doesn't really matter if it's editing, if it's lighting, if it's cinematography or whatnot. You have somebody on set who's the department head who learned the craft for many decades.
Right.
And they learned it by learning it under other masters when they were younger. And so, their job not only is to obviously work the job now as the department head, but also to hire various different people in their different positions. And you learn by doing it. You learn by doing it and making a lot of mistakes. Exactly. Sadly, and having a lot of constructive criticism. And that's, which is probably about 30% encouragement to keep you going, and about 70% critique on how to improve.
Right.
Definitely agree.
And that's how this industry is learned. You learn by doing it and by observing those who are much more experienced. So that's the thing. It's learned by doing it. So if you wanted to be an actor, you have to take acting classes. You know, exactly. There's no other way to do that but to learn under a master, a coach, and to just constantly put work out there every week in a workshop and get about 70% critique and about 30% encouragement. Mm-hmm. That's usually about the formula that works.
Absolutely. And would you say the people that don't make it, or the people that kind of decide this isn't for me, would you say that those are the people that for whatever reason aren't able to take the 70-30, the 70% critique? Maybe not, because I mean, I feel like it can be a tough gig sometimes, and to have people rip you apart constructively can be a tough thing to handle sometimes.
You know, I don't know if I can make a judgment if that's the reason why people don't make it. I do know that I'm gonna answer that in a more global way. Sure. I really feel like in some way, shape, or fashion, I think if you follow your heart, you end up going where ultimately you are meant to do all along. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I did really well on TV news, but at a certain point, it just wasn't a good fit for me. Mm-hmm. So whether or not the 70-30 split was there or not, it just wasn't for me. I do know, like you said, you know, it is hard to get critiqued every single day.
Right.
That is part of the apprenticeship model. I mean, if you want to be a blacksmith, that's going to be the model. If you want to make stained glass windows, that's the model. You're going to be, that's part of the process. So if it is ultimately where your heart is, what your desire is, I think you will put up with the 70%, because it's like, gosh dang it, I should know better than that. All right, I'll work, and then you'll get it.
I love that answer, because I think that the general tone to that answer is follow your passion, and exactly. and you'll know where you're supposed to go.
Exactly.
I love that answer. I believe in that wholeheartedly. I think if you have a passion for what you're doing, you can overcome a lot. And I love that answer. I thought you answered it perfectly.
Thank you.
So you split your time, but are you a Colorado guy? It says you split your time between LA and Colorado. Is that just for the acting purposes, or do you prefer one or the other? It sounds like you kind of are a Colorado guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm born and raised in Colorado.
Yeah.
If you get me at a certain point, I'll even kind of slip into a slight Midwestern accent, like I just did. But depending on the year, I'm spending anywhere from 4 to 5 months in LA, mm-hmm. between being out there for work, whatever the case may be. So I do spend a lot. As I like to tell people, I actually reside on a United jetliner.
I like that,
because it's not unusual for me to be flying every week. Strange enough, I have not flown for like 2 weeks.
Oh,
so
wow.
It feels a little weird to be in my usual seat 11C.
That's hilarious.
That is funny.
That is pretty funny. So what do you have coming up? I know you're working on your short film, and you said that's the last one before you're obviously planning a feature, so that's awesome. What else do you have coming up in the future that listeners can look out for, and where can they see you and find you?
Man in the High Castle on Amazon. They can see me in Mr. Mercedes, which is a Stephen King inspired drama.
Ooh.
I just am out on Hulu's The First.
Yeah, now I'm excited about The First. I think that's the creator from House of Cards, correct?
Yeah, the First is a Hulu original series. Mm-hmm. It's created by the House of Cards writer, and the scripts are just brilliant and lovely. And it's about it focuses on the people behind the first mission to Mars.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And so it is kind of a sci-fi thing, but for those of you who love sci-fi, it's also a very people-oriented story. So don't think it's all going to be, flying through the space and stuff like that. And for those of you who don't like sci-fi, it's a drama.
Right.
You know, there's tension, there's conflict, there's people wanting things and not getting things, and all that kind of good jazz. But it's one of the things I really like about the series is, especially in today's kind of tense world that we live in, it takes place in kind of the near future, and it has a much more hopeful tone to it.
Well, that's good.
Which I find to be a nice thing, and a little kind of a nice escape from our world of today. So that's one thing I'm really happy about.
Yeah, agreed, and I'm with you right there. I like to think of entertainment as an escape from the world that we actually live in. So it's good to know that there's some stuff coming that you can actually do that with. That's great to hear. That's fantastic. And best of luck with that. I hope that it's picked up and continues to run for a while, and that we see a lot of you on it. It sounds like a great show, and you sound just fantastic, man. It's been a great interview. I love the way you've come up and the way you approach things. I think that we need more people like you in the industry. If I'm being honest, I like your raw approach. And that first and foremost, you're a storyteller. I think,
exactly.
Sometimes I feel like we've lost storytellers, and that it's all become about the opening weekend as opposed to actually telling a story.
Yeah.
And so it's good to know that there are still filmmakers out there and storytellers out there.
Well, thank you.
No, and thank you. Like I said, I
definitely.
just one of the best things about the people that we talk to is the realism and the rawness of their craft and how they approach it. And we're always really respectful and appreciative of people that come on and talk the way you have. So, listen, man, thanks so much for really talking to us. I know the listeners are going to thoroughly enjoy that. Like I said, they enjoy people who just open up and are honest and raw about how the industry works and how they're going about it. So I no doubt they're going to love this interview. And we appreciate you taking the time, man. We know you're a busy fella, and hopefully you're getting back on that plane soon.
Maybe next week, it seems like.
There you go then. So, and listen, open invite. Anytime you want to come back and talk about your short film, we'd love to have you back on, man.
Definitely.
Open invite.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, no, thank you. And like I said, have a great day, and we'll be in touch soon, man.
Appreciate it.
All right, have a good one now.
Thank you. Okay.
Yep, bye-bye. What a great guest.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Yeah, and clearly a busy guy, so
Yeah,
really appreciative that he
honestly.
took the time to talk to us today.
Yeah.
We'll pass along, obviously, everywhere you guys can follow him on social media.
Yes.
And be sure that you guys do that. Watch The First with Sean Penn.
Yep.
Bo Williamson's fantastic. If you're a House of Cards, you know that this guy can write, and so this is going to be an amazing series. And it looks like Lil Cam's going to love this. Keiko Agena. Yeah, Gilmore Girls, Lane.
There it is.
She's going to be all over it. Anything that's got anything Gilmore Girls, I'm watching.
All right, now it is time for our guest, Christina Elizabeth Smith. Man, you might have seen her in stuff like NCIS New Orleans, Grey's Anatomy, The Young and the Restless. It's going to be a lot of fun to talk to her.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. She's got quite the career. I mean, started off as a dancer, made the transition into acting, so that's going to be fun to find out how she did that. All right, let's go ahead and give her a call.
Let's do it.
Hello?
Hello, is this Christina?
Yeah, this is she.
Hey, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing really well. It's Dustin, Logan, and Chris today.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, how you doing today?
Good.
Good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us inside the Crazy Ant Farm. We really do appreciate you taking time to come talk to us today.
Yeah, no problem.
Awesome. So, just to give you a heads up, it's very conversational. It's more of just a bunch of people sitting around the table having a conversation than it is Q&A. It's just really relaxed and kind of a good time. So, and what we like to do first is kind of introduce you to our listeners a little bit by kind of saying how you got in the industry and a little bit about your background and everything, and then just kind of take it from there.
Okay, awesome.
Awesome. Okay, well, the first thing that jumped out at me was dancing. You kind of got your start in the industry in dance, and I mean, even won a U.S. national championship. So my question is, first, we could say, how did you decide that maybe, I mean, if it's so good to win a U.S. national championship, but decided, I want to do acting. How did that come about, and how did that whole transition go down, and what was that like?
Well, it's funny. I started dancing because my mom, I was way too hyperactive, and my mom kind of needed to get rid of me a little bit. So I
understand
that's kind of what introduced me to any sort of performance at a really young age, and I loved it and got really obsessed with it. And I think when you have that much passion for anything, you're going to push really far. And I got really far with dance, obviously, because I had a really supportive family and really amazing coaches. And then, like you said, we won nationals, and that was amazing. But there was something with dance and being on the stage where there was an essence of like wanting more, wanting to be able to tell a story. Because I do think that dancing, you're still a storyteller.
Absolutely.
And that's an amazing aspect of it. But you get to a point, at least I got to a point where I wanted more. I wanted to use my voice as well. I wanted language. And I was also like really in love with books already, and really falling in love with storytelling through language. And so it sort of was the next natural step to be like, well, I want to incorporate my voice, and what does that look like? So then I just started really exploring. My sister was in school for theater at the time, so I just stole a bunch of her books, and I was like, oh, this seems like it melds the movement of dance and then brings in this other element that gives me more. So I just started exploring like what she was doing.
Awesome.
And it kind of was an automatic answer for me.
And so did you kind of make the transition to stage first before into film and television? Did you find that like you could take the dance into more of a stage or theater work first?
I did, because that was what was available to me immediately, because I could go, to a local college and get on stage and start taking courses really easily. So stage was the next, natural progression from dance. And because I will always have a soft spot for being on the stage. So, and that was the books I was reading. I was reading like Uta Hagen, which is a stage-based, she's a stage-based acting teacher. So that was the natural progression. And then I sort of started working in Nashville a little bit, and then got introduced to TV and film and loved the intimacy of it. So I was like, okay, this is where I want to land. I didn't really have any reason why I decided that. It was just something in my heart of like, I like both the reach that it has. I feel like you can reach a larger audience that way. And I like the intimacy of it.
And so Nashville, just for the fans who don't know, you kind of that was taking place in Nashville. What was the industry like for television and film there? I mean, I know Music City, and I would imagine a lot of music videos and a lot to do on the music circuit. What was the film and television industry like at that point when you were trying to get into it there? At
the time, it was almost non-existent. There were really tiny productions going on through independent film, and I was introduced to that mostly through people that I met, like you said, on music video shoots. I ended up doing a ton of music videos, and that got me on set learning about, what it's like to be on a professional set. And I learned like who was working in the film industry in Nashville and what they were doing, and got introduced to commercials that way. And then people would branch off and make their own short films and independent films. And really at the time, the Nashville market was nothing like what it is now, where they had, any of their own shows with CMT or the show Nashville. Like none of that existed at the time. So it was a very different industry, but it was enough that I could get that sort of foundation and join the union and all of that there before I decided, you hit that ceiling really quickly.
Right.
And that was, I hit a ceiling where I pretty much couldn't be used anymore for music videos because the record labels knew who I was. And so that was sort of my sign to go out, to a bigger market,
right,
whether it be LA or New York. And I always knew that was the goal anyway.
See, and I love that. We've had several guests on the show who use almost that same reference, like when when you outgrow the fishbowl, when you've become the biggest fish in the pond, you've got to go and you've got to make that leap. And so, okay, so you say New York or LA, you chose LA, right?
Right.
And so what base was it? More because you felt like you were more headed towards film and television and thought LA would be better than New York, or what made the decision between LA and New York?
I do think it was the film and TV poll, and there is sort of still that stigma of LA as the apex. So you go to LA and you make it in LA and you've made it.
Right.
So New York is more if I wanted to go the Broadway route, which is still my goal of all goals is to get on Broadway one day. But I want to do that through having a TV and film reputation. And then I feel like you can walk onto Broadway a lot easier.
Absolutely.
I just knew I was, wanted to get the experience that I could get out in LA. So I just was always pulled that direction more.
Fantastic. Well, first of all, congratulations, because, to even attempt to make it in a market that's not thriving in the industry, like you said, and to be able to excel the way that you did and then make the leap to LA, I mean, that takes a lot right there. I think it really does show your passion for what you're doing and your ability and skill to do it. So congratulations on that right there.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So going from where you are the biggest fish in the pond or recognizable and you're at a level to where you've reached kind of a pinnacle, what was it like transitioning to LA where there's everybody out there is trying to do what you're doing, and the competition when you walk in a room is on such a grander level than where you're coming from in Nashville? What was that first like when you went out there? Was it intimidating, or were you just like, I got this?
I think it's twofold. I think it's I knew I wanted to be in LA for so long that I was just, I moved into an apartment that was sort of like managed by a slumlord. And so like my mom came and saw it. She was super sad about it, but I was so elated to finally land, to finally be in the place I had worked so hard to get to, that there was almost like, I don't want to say naive because that has such a negative connotation, but there was so much excitement about being there because now it's like, okay, let's work. But then it was also, that being acquainted with the ways of the world experience where it was incredibly difficult. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know where to start. I didn't, no one wanted to look at me twice. And, it's sort of the reason we don't know the future, because if we know it, we're not going to, dive in fully because it's going to seem like such a struggle. So it was definitely twofold of like this extreme excitement and extreme struggle that kind of married together to, that was the beginning of my LA experience and lasted for years and years. I mean, it took forever to get a really good commercial agent and then theatrical agent and start to go out on a regular basis. And that just takes a really long time. But I think what saved me was in the in-between, I just want to learn everything I can learn. And that mentality is what was my survival once I get in the doors, I'm going to know what I'm doing. And and the ability to just want to always be learning is what has always kept me alive. So I was lucky to be introduced to really amazing mentors and teachers and classes and just never stop studying.
I love that, because we have a lot of listeners for our show that are trying to break in the industry or have just gotten into the industry, and that was my question. How when you were faced with that struggle, and like you said, it takes years and years sometimes. How did you face that and do that? And I love that. I think not enough people, I think they turn away before they realize you've got to learn, you got to grow, you can continue to do it and make it, but you got to have some time and some persistence and some passion, and it's nice to hear when somebody does it that way and isn't, I mean, get on a set, right? Learn what you can learn any way you can learn it to get where you want to go. I think that's extremely important for people trying to make it in the industry.
Right. And also not put all of your worth, because you constantly run into meeting people and they ask, what do you do? And you're like, I'm an actor. And the first question is always, well, what have you done?
Right.
And immediately we sink into the feeling of I'm worthless. I don't have this thing on paper that I can prove that I am this thing, that I am an actor. And I think so the worth of your art and your person has to be separate from your resume. And I think for me, that's always saves me, is that I know my self-worth as an artist is so rooted through my training and what I want to give to the world through my art. And I've earned that, and no amount of someone's reaction to what I've done can take that away.
Wow. Much respect. That's a fantastic.
Yeah, I have the same understanding. I'm just getting to that point myself, is just trying to distance away from that, like what I can do, mime the sound, not acting, but in the same vein.
In the same vein. And I love the fact you separate your self-worth from what your resume says. Wow. Brilliantly said, and I think that's going to go a long way with our listeners to understand that concept, because you're so right. I think people can be defeated so easily when someone does approach them and they don't feel like they've lived up to whatever they're supposed to live up to. And I mean, wow, well said. Thank you for that.
Definitely.
And and that just makes me so sad, because I just don't ever want someone to give up because of something external. That's crap. That stuff is just noise that will shut down something that every single individual artist has to give, Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Well, after hearing that and knowing how passionate you are about the industry, what do you think about social media? You hear constantly all the time nowadays about how casting directors and people want to see how many followers you had besides your actual talent. What do you think about social media in that sense?
I went through my own social media struggle of, again, you wrap it back into self-worth of like, if I'm going to go into, I dabbled for a minute in print work and then I decided it wasn't for me. That's just not where I want to put my energy. But I don't denigrate anyone that chooses to do print work, but that's something that they ask you, how many followers do you have? And immediately, again, it's that feeling of sinking of like, I can't prove that to you. And so I would have girlfriends and guy friends that would be like, go and buy followers, go buy them. And I was like, that to me feels like a lie. I feel like immediately I'm starting off lying. And they talk about the idea of live from the place. So if I were already the caliber of actor that I want to be, the level of somebody uber known, do I want to be a liar? And that's never how I want to represent my brand, So I don't want to live from that place. So it's like, okay, if they don't want me because I don't have, 100,000 followers, then they're not my people. They're not my tribe.
Right.
Nice. But I fell prey to it, and I, got swept into it and let my self-worth get wrapped up in it for a while there. I think it was like maybe 2 years ago I fell into it. I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to share on my social media to attract more followers. And then I just was like, I'm exhausted. This is pulling away from my own creative time, because I also, paint and dance and have my own things. And I was like, why do I care about this thing that's not even really me? Like, if you sit down and you have a drink with me in the evening, that's going to be different than if you're watching me on social media. You can never really get the essence of who I am. And then I had sort of an epiphany of like, well, how can I show that? How can I show who I am in some way? And so I decided, like, cut all social media out except for one thing. So I really only use Instagram. Mm-hmm. And then what does that look like? What do I look like? And so that will attract the people that are similar to me. So now on Instagram, I'll share some dance videos because I love my dancing, and I'll share some paintings because I love my paintings, and I'll share some stupid stuff about my dogs. And what naturally happened was I'd meet really cool people that were higher up in the industry that and I may not have hundreds of thousands of followers, but the ones that I'm getting, I'm seeking out that are really high value, and they're seeing that it's about a value add.
Yes.
So I'm trying to add value of like, this is the stuff I'm creating. Follow it if you want to. If not, that's okay. And then again, I wrap back around to, if someone only wants me because of my followers, that's not my tribe. That's not how I'm going to make it.
Right.
And I'm at peace with that, because there's something else in some other way that I'm going to do it. And again, if someone wants to do it that way or is doing it that way, I think that's amazing. It's just not for me because it distracts me too much.
I like the one thing that stood out there is, like you said, if you're at a place and you're having a drink, it's totally different from what you see on social media, and that is such a valid point. I think one of the major downsides to social media and in this era is that people have forgotten how to interact socially face to face. Like, you know, it's almost you're terrified to go in and actually talk to somebody because you can't be the same way if you were talking to them on social media. And so I love the fact that you bring that up, because I do think that we've seen that consistently, a problem where people just don't know how to interact socially anymore, with face to face, which is, I love that you did that. And kudos, because I do think that it's the right way to go on social media when you start sharing things that are important to you and things that mean things to you, because then, like you said, you find similar followers that understand who you are. So kudos for that. That's, yeah.
Well, thanks.
Sure. So what would you consider your first big break? So you're out there, you're kind of hammering, you got out there for a couple of years, you're learning your craft, you're taking classes, you're doing things. Where's the first break come in?
That's funny to kind of gauge, because I think there were different levels of breaks. So there was like my first commercial break, which was, you know, the first time you book like a national commercial, which is, you know, I remember that was like a Nissan commercial I booked. So I was like, okay, I can check that box. And then I think first TV break was probably breaking into soaps, like doing Days of Our Lives and Young and the Restless. And then the first thing I was like, okay, I'm a real human person actor was Grey's Anatomy, because you're getting in, and I was with Gina Davis, who's like won an Oscar, and I'm, you know, it's high stakes. So that's the first thing I was like, okay, I really earned this as an artist. You know, I had to show up in the room and really tell a story that required all of, you know, the culmination of all my chops coming together. So for me, that was my first thing. But, you know, for other people, it's always gauged in a different way.
Yeah. So, well, that's it. And so I guess a question, because like you said, with Grey's Anatomy and stuff, what did you find the biggest difference transitioning from soap operas to prime time or an hour-long, you know, episodic drama?
Yeah.
Like, was there a big difference? Did you find that you liked one more than the other, or what kind of a transition was that?
It's funny because I think that soaps get such a bad rap, and they're disrespected for so many reasons, but I really have such high respect for soaps because the speed at which they're flowing through material.
Right.
You know, of course I prefer regular, you know, well, I don't want to say regular because that's not really accurate, but I prefer things like Grey's or NCIS that I'm on now, because you have the luxury of time.
Right.
Whereas soaps, they're going to do 2 takes if you're lucky and you're done.
Yeah.
Which I think is amazing for an actor. I think, you know, actors should experience that, because that level of stakes of like, you need to get in there, be prepared, and get it done, because they are, you know, and the people that are regulars on soaps are, you know, they're shooting 70 pages a day. And the amount of material and what you're asking your brain to do and absorb, I think is incredible. And so just that muscle, I think is really magic to learn. Like, however you're learning to absorb lines, you know, that's definitely one way to learn it.
I bet. We recently had Eric Braden on the show also, and he said the same thing. Just the amount of pages that you rip through in a day is just completely unreal compared to what you would do on another. So yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, that's got to be just. But I guess the preparation, like you said, it must prepare you really well for when you do go into a show and you have time and you do have multiple takes. And I mean, it must have you completely prepared to go into a situation like that, I would gather.
Yeah, because I do feel like there's a middle ground. I don't think that for the way that I like to work, I don't want to do 1 take, but I don't want to do 57. So I like a middle ground, which, you know, most, you know, TV is going to do. TV movies, you're going to have, you know, a decent amount of the day to do 1 scene, and that's great. That's this happy medium. But you're going to find, you know, David Fincher will do, I haven't worked with him yet, but he'll do a scene sometimes an inordinate amount of times, and it's interesting to see what would come of that, and it's interesting to see what comes out of you when you do a soap. So everything's a learning experience, but I find, for where I'm at right now with my art, I like the middle ground.
Awesome. So let's talk, first of all, congratulations on NCIS New Orleans.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit. How's it like working in that environment? And that franchise is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, it's successful, and it's spun off 2 spin-offs now, and what's it like to work in an environment like that?
Yeah, I can imagine. That's a nonstop machine.
Right?
Yeah, it is. That's exactly what it is. It's a machine. It is a machine that feels like a family. So, which is just, I don't know, it's such an honor to come into something like that. Because you think you're going to come in as a new person and a new character, and there's a lot of pressure being a new character, because you're going to have to earn your respect with you want to earn it with the fans and earn it with the family, but they immediately make you feel welcome, that all the cast and crew, and Scott's amazing, and he's an incredible human being. It's like his energy is incredible, and you also think they're going to be a lot more rigid than they are. I thought it was going to be like I always over prepare anyway, which I always want to be like that. You over prepare your script, and you want to make sure you're word for word, and then you get in there, and they're a lot more playful. They'll let you have sort of an improvisational attitude with your script, which I never advise in an audition. I'm like, be off book and be pretty married to the script.
Right.
But once I got on set, they really let me have a lot of liberties with who I knew, like with Ginny, with my character, and even with the script. And there were some changes that were made, and it's just an incredible honor and a really amazing family to come into, and just a huge production and a well-oiled machine.
I bet. Well, and that sounds fantastic. I mean, as a performer, it's got to be, just a blessing to be able to come in and have some liberty with a character and develop a character, and to be able to go off book a little bit. So yeah, that's got to be exciting. Do you go back and forth? And now do you actually shoot some stuff here in New Orleans as well, or is it all in LA, or how do you go?
Oh no, I go back and forth. So primarily I'm in New Orleans right now. I'm actually about to do another movie here this week. So, but I go back and forth. Like, I'll be back in LA early December. So I sort of am a gypsy right now, which awesome. I think is good for me. So yeah, I'll be back and forth until like at the end of pilot season. I'm going to kind of reevaluate where I need to root down, but it's been fun, and I've really respected and appreciated the quiet that New Orleans has given me and my art and my mind, especially after I had over 10 years in LA. So
yeah.
This is an amazing thing to hear that, though, just getting quiet in New Orleans. I never know that city for being quiet.
You have to be in LA to understand the quiet of New Orleans, right?
Yeah, it's a different kind of... for me, it's been extremely quiet, and I think it's probably because I don't have all the distractions and all the friends and parties and events and all these things that you have. And when you have that much of an ingrained life, you come out here and you're like, okay, I don't know anybody or anything. So I think that's good for the brain every once in a while to just be like, okay, I need to listen to myself for a little bit.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Absolutely. So, okay, I want to talk a little bit about Pretext, because you produced and wrote and starred in it, correct?
100%, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Wow, that, and it's definitely an interesting topic. A rape victim who's talking to her rapist. That had to be intense. Where does the idea for that come from, first of all, and how did that come about? Because, like I said, that it's a very timely conversation right now, if I'm going to be honest. And so, whereabouts did that come from? The idea for that, and how did that all come together for you?
That came from, I have a lot of family in a lot of family that are police and detectives, and also obviously women's issues are very close to my heart. So I'm pretty well acquainted with the investigative process when it comes to rape investigations. And I knew about something called pretext calling, and this whole project came about when I was over a glass of wine with my friend, Jeremy in LA, and I told him about this thing called pretext calling, where a victim is brought in and asked in front of a detective to call the person that allegedly raped them. And they do this to children as well, children, women, men, and they have them call, and the detective will, be listening to the phone call as well and be writing on a notepad things to say. And the idea is that you're coaxing the alleged rapist to admit to what they did through almost acting like you enjoyed what happened. But the tapes are not admissible in court, and it usually ends up really re-victimizing the victim. So I explained that this thing exists, and the responses that I've gotten every time I've talked about this concept is kind of horror. That why do I not know this existed, and why are we doing this to victims?
Right.
And that was the argument. And then we went on after having this conversation. I kind of Googled it. The only thing I came up with was official police documents. There was never really any sort of blog started about it. There was never any videos. So it's like, well, let's make something. Let's just make something and throw it together and just kind of tell this story in any way that we can. And so we just sat down and kind of threw it together and wrote it. And we did everything within like a 2-week span, like all the writing and pre-production, and then shot it within like a 2-week span. So it was just something that we wanted to get out there. And that's why we put it up on YouTube right away. It was never about like making money off a pretext. It was just saying, hey, this thing exists. And we just want people to know that and then question the validity. And it was also really important to not demonize the detective in this, but say it's the system that's failing people. It's not people that are failing people.
Wow. And is that still available on YouTube? Because I think that's an extremely important message and topic to get out there. So it'd be great if people could still find that and watch that.
That's still up on YouTube. It'll usually just come up if you just search pretext. And it is very uncomfortable to watch. It's an uncomfortable and harsh, and we used this sort of, the detective that we brought, the director that we brought in is this great Iranian director, and he's familiar with, obviously being Iranian, he's familiar with these issues against women and victims. So he had a very interesting emotional perspective that he brought in the editing and the directing. So it's very uncomfortable to watch, but we thought it was important to make it uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
It's a full, it
absolutely.
has to be.
Well, okay, so let's kind of transition into that then a little bit with the Me Too movement and the things that are kind of going on in the industry today, in the culture, and not just in our industry, the entertainment industry, but all industries really. But in ours specifically, have you seen a change, legitimately seen a change? Has it made things more difficult for you or easier for you? Or has it changed your approach on how you do auditions? Or, what are you seeing as an actress in this culture and in this transition of change, I guess, that we're seeing right now?
That is again, I think it's a double-edged sword. I do think that anytime you shine a light, we're going to start to shift. I don't think we're there yet. In a lot of ways, I think in the climate that we're in, there's a lot of things that are making me feel like we're moving backwards, but everything's a pendulum swing. So there's going to be, hopefully we'll settle that pendulum right there in the middle where it needs to be. I personally have been lucky in my, professional career that I've gotten on really professional sets, and other than some creepy meetings with some fake managers, I have not experienced a lot of trauma in that world. I do think that I've had some conversations with some friends that have been sort of sad, because I think when there's any extreme reactions like this, you're going to have a pushback. And that's some of the men that I've spoken to. They're like, well, now we don't feel like we can do anything or say anything. And I don't think that's the answer either. So it's coming to where people don't feel like they can, they want to just like push back or separate even more. Like men want to stay all the way away from women, and then they get really awkward on set, which that was one experience I had being on a set. Like the men just, I understand they're in fear, and I can't speak to that because I'm not a man that is on the other side of the Me Too movement.
Right.
But I don't think the answer is to then push back so hard that it's almost out of anger, which that's the only thing I have experienced. It's almost like they're mad that this has been brought up. So I don't know if that makes any sense at all, because it's like I'm trying to put something that feels not very tangible into words, but the backlash has been that I just feel like everybody's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes me kind of sad, because with the discomfort, we can't really get to a place where we could tell story truthfully. So if we're going to set and everybody's uncomfortable, then what are we going to do when we have a scene that's uncomfortable? So we have to figure out a way to navigate the Me Too movement where people are not being inappropriate, but also where we're not so scared of being inappropriate that we're making people uncomfortable, which is another kind of inappropriate.
Yeah, it's just everybody trying to be fearful of like, oh no, if I say this or do this, I'm going to be out and I'm not going to have a job or ever do this again.
Right.
Right. So there was almost like I did have an experience on set where there was like a joke going around, and then I reiterated the same joke that was going around, and I got some backlash. Like, I didn't say that. I wasn't the one. I was like, whoa, I'm not going to Me Too you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is there has to be a little bit of checks and balances where it's like, don't yell at me because I'm repeating a joke.
Right.
And it wasn't even an off-color joke. So it's almost this fear that's causing an aggression, which is causing a discomfort among like mixed company, that I don't feel like that's the answer either. And again, I don't want to sound like I'm coming, because again, I want to be like Gina Davis, who's creating this like institute fighting for women, like that I'm all the way on the spectrum of like fighting for women's rights. But anything that is making people that almost like hostile and uncomfortable, I don't think that's the answer either.
Right.
So I think I need to get a little more clearer with how I feel about it, but it just makes me sad, anything that makes us separate even more.
Right. I don't know. I think you did a really good job of explaining how you feel about it and taking a valid look at both sides. I don't think it takes away anything from you standing up for women and being an activist towards women, and while acknowledging that there might be some good guys out there who now are terrified to be a good guy because it might be misinterpreted. I think, in fact, it makes you much respect for you to be able to recognize that and to be able to see both sides, because for all the bad guys out there, there are good guys out there who are now scared to death just to be a good guy.
Yeah.
And the fact that you said that and the honesty that you approach that with, I think it makes you even more commendable as a woman who stands up for women, who can recognize that in men. So I think it was well said, and I respect your honesty, and thank you for discussing it with us. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you for reflecting that back. Yeah, because you just want to, you want to see all the sides. I think that's the goal.
It is the goal, because nothing's going to, like you said, nothing will be accomplished if you can't see everybody's point of view and come from all sides. It just can't. So you do a lot of work outside of acting, though. Animal rights, and I'm really curious about the mythic storytelling. I have to ask about that, but let's talk about animal rights first. Because that's a passion, and I mean, animals, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, I know in our area alone, it's a big problem here. Abused animals and dog fighting rings, and just overpopulation of animals. It's a big problem right now, facing a lot of areas in our country, I think. So I commend you for your work on that, and let's talk about that a little bit and how you got involved in that.
Right. I grew up so in the middle of nowhere, like Clarksville, Tennessee, outside of Nashville. And so I, to my mother's chagrin, have always been rescuing animals. I think that's just the natural instinct, which is probably me trying to rescue some innocent part of myself.
Right.
If we're making it a metaphor. But yeah, I think there's this sounds awful, but animals can't grow up and speak and then fight for themselves. There's such a pure, raw innocence about animals. And I think that I have always had rescue animals, and it's just a part of me that I can't really explain. I just will always want to have outreach when it comes to that. So it's the same with I really advocate for, and I would never attack. Like I have a cousin who raises, she raises, why can I not think right now? Not mixed dogs. What?
Full breed?
Yes, thank you. She raises purebred dogs. See, I don't even want to acknowledge it exists.
No.
So I'm denying it's a thing. So she raises purebreds, and so I would never attack her about that. But for me, I'm like, there's so many stray animals in the world that need homes. So that's my biggest thing that I advocate for. It's just don't buy an animal when there's so many that need homes.
Yes.
And they're so much healthier when they come out. They
really are. You don't have to go through all this system of getting all these crazy medications because they're mutts. Just get a mutt.
Yep.
And they just give you just as much love as any dog out there. They give you
Well said.
I could be around that. Yeah.
Okay, so mythic storytelling. I'll be honest, I have no idea. What is mythic storytelling?
Well, that came about because I had an amazing teacher who introduced me to Joseph Campbell years and years and years ago. And Joseph Campbell studied comparative religion and comparative mythology, which is pretty much the myths and the stories that exist in cultures all around the world.
Right.
So pretty much if you study the myths of all cultures, it's sort of if you understand the Bible, you can understand a lot of the storytelling. A lot of our storytelling in America comes from the myths of the Bible. I'm not saying people that believe in the Bible that's not true. I'm saying myth as a story.
Right.
Myth pretty much just means storytelling.
Right.
So and the same with if you study the Shahnameh, which is the Iranian version, you can understand the Iranian culture so much better. So if you get to the foundation of where all of our stories come from, you can pick up a script at any time and you can trace it back to a really old myth, to a really old story. The idea is that there are no new stories. They're all just the recycling of these old myths that we've had, or these old archetypes. So I just got obsessed with studying myths throughout the whole world because every culture and myth has an Adam and Eve story. And what does it look like in different cultures? What does that Adam and Eve story look like? Because it creates this idea that we're all interconnected. I think we all want to think we're the only ones with this story of Adam and Eve and nobody else has it, and we're so unique in that way, which is beautiful on the one hand, but it's so much more fun for me, especially as an empathetic storyteller, to be look at how interconnected we are when we go and study myth in this culture that we think is so separate from us, and how can I connect it? Because ultimately I think that's what creativity is. It's connecting things that are seemingly unrelated. So yeah, it made my art so much better when I started to study all these myths. And then it's the same with comparative religion. You think that all religions are so different from one another. And then you read their stories and it's this story relates to this one. It's just the names are different.
Right.
And again, that's never throwing the sacredness of anyone's religion under the bus, saying yours is just like this because, the practices and the rituals are different. But to see similarity in what is inherently, or seemingly different is so fascinating to me.
I bet. And I guess the overall theme there is, and I love the approach that you took to it, is humanity. I mean, while there are many different cultures and many different aspects to how people live and where they come, if you really sit down and look at it, have so much more in common and are so much more alike than we want to admit that we are. And maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe if we all just sat down and realized for a minute, like you just said, you might think we're this way and nobody else is, but in reality, we're all way more alike than we think. So I love that. I mean, wow, you're a fascinating individial.
Oh yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's a huge compliment.
no, absolutely a compliment. I love your approach and the way you've not only chased your career, but the way you continuously, obviously a very educated individual, and you continue to grow and educate yourself, and in different ways. I mean, much respect for that. I really have a lot of respect for people who never reach that plateau, who always feel like they have to better themselves and learn something new and look at things a different way. And you definitely seem to be one of those people. So yeah, that's wow. What an interesting conversation. Like, honestly.
Thank you for navigating it.
No, well, I try. It's much easier when we have guests who actually talk. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, when you have a thing and you have this thing that you're so excited about, and you're like, I don't know how to take it out of the ether and put it into words and give it to people.
Right.
So you were great at that. You were great at facilitating that. So I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm going to take that as a compliment.
Definitely.
So, all right. Well, let's kind of wrap up a little bit for the people who are, obviously we can see you on NCIS New Orleans right now. So we want to kind of, first of all, let everybody know where they can find you. And then we always like to kind of wrap up with, what advice would you give to people trying to get into the industry? Maybe either advice that you would do, or maybe pitfalls to try to avoid for people trying to get into the industry.
I would say, first and foremost is train and find what keeps your soul alive. That's, and what keeps your soul alive for you, not what somebody is telling you is going to keep your soul alive.
Right.
I think, so find ways to get quiet and listen to what you have to say to the world, and don't go, through your art and through your world asking what other people want from you. Instead, be like asking what you want to give to the world. So that's always, I wish I would have learned that way earlier, was
awesome.
To root myself deeper in what I wanted to be and give, and trust that, and not be swayed by the outside noise. And then that goes with, what not to do is be swayed by so much. It's so easy, especially in LA, to be swayed by other people's ideas. Mm-hmm. But there is a part of every person that knows what to do. There is this quiet part. And I think have some kind of practice that removes you, whether that's meditation or prayer or exercise or dance or yelling at a wall. I don't care. Have some kind of practice that removes you from the world and takes you back into yourself. I think that those are the things that have saved me.
Awesome. Yeah, that's solid advice from start to finish. Really, really great stuff. Thank you for that. Okay, so like I said, NCIS New Orleans, and we're going to make sure everybody checks out Pretext, because like I said, I just think that's a really important message, and the bravery to make it, first of all, and put it out there. And so I hope we can direct a lot of people to see that. And where else? What you got coming up in the future?
Well, I do have this movie that I'm shooting this week that they just approved for me to get the script. So I can't say anything about that yet, but it's always best to go on IMDb, because that updates everything that I can kind of release. And then I usually keep my Instagram pretty up to date. That's the only social media that I use. And that's just Christina Elizabeth Smith is my Instagram. Okay. So if you ever want to snoop on that, go right ahead.
We will direct everybody to Snoop. Don't worry.
Yeah, come and Snoop. That's fine.
And definitely when you have more stuff coming out about that movie, you can definitely come back on the show. Open invite, really.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys are amazing. I really appreciate all your really, great questions and keeping me on track. Thanks for that.
Well, thank you, and thank you for the compliments. And we look forward to having you back on when, like JLo said, you could talk about that movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, listen, you have a great day. You said you're in New Orleans right now. Are you getting all the rain we're getting?
Yes.
Yeah.
I kind of like it. It's peaceful.
Yeah.
I can't complain.
Yeah, we're just down the road from you right now. We're over in Biloxi, so yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. So we're dealing with that as well. But
well, I had to go Pensacola the other day, and
right?
freaking trying to cold rain.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, enjoy the quiet of New Orleans and the peaceful of the rain, and have a great rest of the day. And we will definitely be in touch with you soon. We will tell everybody where to find you, and we look forward to having you back on real soon.
All right. Appreciate you guys. Thanks so much.
All right. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Wow.
What a real person.
I mean, she's just like down to earth and like
seriously.
like it is, right?
Yeah,
like,
and trying everything in the industry. Why limit yourself to just one thing?
Right. And I mean, again, we hear when she says it took years and but she wasn't defeated. She said,
exactly.
What can I learn? How can I learn this or do this and do that and then get in a door?
Exactly.
She did whatever it took. And what I loved is she said, and while doing that, that means when I got through the door, I knew what to do.
Exactly.
I mean, we hear that over and over and over.
Yeah.
Just get on a set, learn something, try something, and it will work.
Exactly.
And I mean, it's nice to hear. And wow, yeah, really, really just interesting how she approaches everything, though.
Yeah.
That's like,
I like the once you outgrow the fishbowl thing, going back to the Lily Borden interview. Like,
Absolutely.
Once you outgrow a room, it's time to move on.
And I think it's important for people to know when that time is.
Yeah.
I think some people just don't get it.
They get comfortable.
They get comfortable, and
Yeah.
they're scared to go out of the fishbowl. They're like,
they are.
This is my comfort zone. But
Yeah.
and they never really,
Yeah.
you
gotta risk it.
You
to get
gotta
the
risk
biscuit.
it, and so that's also a great point and nice to hear.
You gotta get out and live life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I commend her wholeheartedly on her thoughts on the Me Too. I thought she said it perfectly, where there's got to be some middle ground. While you have to recognize all the awful that's going on, you have to also recognize there's some good people who are now terrified to just be themselves because they might be misinterpreted.
Just approach a woman for a conversation.
Yeah, I mean, just so all right.
Yeah,
awesome.
great conversation.
Fantastic.
All right, now it is time for our top 5 segment, and today we have a very special guest joining us, and here he is.
Hello, is this Bob?
Rob.
Rob.
Sorry, Rob. That would help if I got Rob or Bob, right?
Yeah.
Damn it, Dustin.
It's been a long day, Rob.
I hear you loud and clear.
Oh, man. Well, so listen, okay, we're really excited about this because every week we do a segment on the show, our top 5 favorites.
That's right.
And this week, for everybody listening, the reason Rob is called in is because he's joining us on the top 5 favorite segment this week. And it's for a very important reason. And we're getting ready to tell you what our top 5 favorite segment is this week. And you're going to figure out real quick why Rob is joining us. This week it is top 5 favorite canceled shows that we would like to see back. So, are you all set, Rob?
Yes, I have my 5 shows figured out.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
So what we're going to do, we're going to go around. We're going to save you for last because I have a feeling we know what one of your shows is, and we're going to talk about it. So, Tavia, if you would like to go first.
Yes. So I kind of had a little bit of trouble with this because some of the shows that I picked were brought back on different networks. So does that still count? Or is it just
fine.
shows that are gone for good?
Just shows that are gone for good that haven't been brought back.
Okay. All right. So one of mine is The Mick. I really liked that one. I thought Caitlin Olsen was great.
It was good.
And I was keeping up with it. I was really disappointed when that one was gone. I think also, I forgot that this happened, but Futurama. I forgot that Futurama was canceled instead of just ending. And so I put that one on there.
Stole mine too.
I also really liked Making History. I thought that was a really fun show, and I thought it had a lot of potential. And I didn't even know that it was necessarily just like canceled. I wasn't sure what had happened to it. Ash versus Evil Dead, which I know you'll probably disagree with me, Soundman, but I like that show. Damn it!
I love that show. What are you talking
I
about?
thought you didn't like it for some reason.
No, I love that show. That's
well, then
one of my
I
favorite
guess
shows.
you'll agree with me.
She was ready.
Yeah,
She was ready to fight it.
I was so sad about its canceling.
I know I'm feisty today.
Yeah,
Leave me
yeah.
alone.
She is. Feisty ain't here, so Tavia.
Yeah,
That's right. And then I've got to mention Scorpion, of course.
Of course.
So those
Yeah,
are
definitely Scorpion.
Yeah,
All right, J-Lo, what you got?
All right, I got, of course, Scorpion. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
Blue Mountain State from Spike. I really enjoyed that one. It was also on Netflix. That's where I watched it. And then they also did a they did a movie to kind of wrap everything up, but I wasn't okay with it. It wasn't
not
good.
okay.
It's not okay.
It wasn't good. A recent one, Alex Insync or Incorporated.
Yeah.
It's that one with
Zach Braff.
Yeah. And where
I never got to watch it. It was good.
Pretty good.
It got canceled so quick, Davey didn't even get to watch it.
It really did. It was fast.
I watched a few episodes, but it didn't hold me
it.
at all.
I liked it. Basically, a corporate guy leaving corporate America and starting his own podcast about like family life and just living through the day. Freaks and Geeks. I really enjoyed Freaks and Geeks.
Yeah.
I heard that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Last Tycoon. Oh my goodness.
Yes, The Last Tycoon.
Yes. So good.
I really want that one back.
Hell yeah. And that was it. That's my top 5.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Chris, what you got?
Well, first one will be Vulture.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I really liked My Name Is Earl and Memphis Beats. Both great Jason Lee shows. Both got canceled
I forgot
way
that
before
one was canceled too.
Yeah.
Like these didn't just end; they were canceled.
I didn't know.
In the real more campy side, I kind of had 3 that kind of got stuck at tied. It was Warehouse 13, Pushing Daisies, and Better Off Ted.
Oh, well, Pushing Daisies. I loved it.
Oh,
I thought
so
it was
cool.
so underrated. That was like a brilliant show.
That was a good show.
Agreed wholeheartedly.
Brilliant. Then Nerd is a Firefly.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I've heard so much good things about that, but that I know that it doesn't end well because it got canceled. It makes me not want to watch it because I'm like, I know I'm just going to get
to have a
broken.
movie-ish.
Sort of.
Yeah. See, that's...
But Firefly, the series itself was
I've
fantastic.
heard that it's amazing. Yeah.
All right, so here we go. Here's mine. No Ordinary Family. I feel so bad because Greg Berlanti hit it, but just a couple years too early.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a huge hit right now. So he should just bring it back. Come on, Berlanti, you're doing great with superhero shows. Bring it back. And then I'm gonna go on an Aaron Sorkin kick. I want the Newsroom and Sports Night both back.
Man.
I mean, like neither one of them should be gone. They should both be back. They were both brilliant. Person of Interest. I was a huge fan of Person of Interest, and I didn't
that held
like the
my
way
interest. I was really interested in that.
Yeah.
And you were a person.
A person of interest. That's right. I said it's been a long day, damn it. I did though. I didn't like the way they kind of they found out they were going to be canceled and quickly tried to wrap it up, and I was not happy with that.
That never makes for a good ending.
No, and I'd like to see that one back, and of course. Scorpion. I mean, I think we can all agree Scorpion needs to come back.
Yes.
All right, Rob. Note I got Rob correct this time. Rob.
So proud.
Yes, R-O-B, Rob.
You have to understand I'm a gaffer. If you listen to the show, you know I have these mind freezes or brain gaps every now and then, Rob.
He was born in about 1902, so you just going to have to forgive him.
Exactly. He saw the Titanic being built.
Wow. Okay. Ouch. Rob, I'm ready to hear your 5, buddy. What you got?
Okay. Okay, so I have my 5 ready. The first 2 have been canceled years ago, but I've always wanted them to come back. Here they are. Kyle XY.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That was on ABC Family. Have
Yeah.
you heard of that one?
Oh,
Yeah,
I remember that
sure
one,
have.
yeah.
I forgot
Yeah,
about
that
that one.
ended with a bunch of unresolved cliffhangers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other show that was canceled years ago, but I've always wanted to come back, was Las Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was
that
awesome.
was a
With
good one.
Josh Duhamel, James
Oh,
Gunn.
yeah. Forgot about that one too.
That was a really fun show.
Yeah, that was a really good show.
The next 2 were both Netflix and a lot more recent. Luke Cage and Iron Fist.
Oh,
man.
We are all in agreement with you. So your opinion, do you think this was intentional to set up a Heroes for Hire, or do you think it's a more broad plan because of Disney with their streaming service? What's your thoughts about why you think it got canceled?
Yeah.
I definitely agree with you with the Heroes for Hire, because this might be a spoiler for Luke Cage season 2 if you haven't seen it, but there was an episode where he and Danny teamed up and they have really good chemistry together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they kind of hinted throughout Luke Cage the whole season about making the joke that he should be making money for his powers and for saving people. They kind of hinted at the Heroes for Hire the whole season. So I'm hoping that's what it is, and I hope that comes back in that sort of a thing. We'll see. But we all agree with you there. We completely agree they should come back. And I bet we all know what your next one is.
I think we all know. Want to take a guess?
Sure. Is it Scorpion?
Ding, 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 ding.
Hey, there we go.
So the reason that we had you on, because we too are huge Scorpion fans, and I'm sure you're aware, we talked to Riley B. Smith a couple weeks ago, and he was fantastic. We got to meet him out in LA last week, and that was so much fun. But yeah, this show, it was mind-boggling that it got canceled. It was still doing great in the ratings.
Yeah.
It had a huge following of fans. It was big international. And so the sudden just, boom, it's done, gone.
Exactly.
I think it kind of took everybody by surprise. And I think it was a huge disservice by CBS to do it.
Well, yeah, just listening to Riley talking about it, like he said that he just woke up and then saw the headline. Like he didn't even, the cast didn't even know.
That's exactly how I found out. I was in bed after waking up.
Yeah.
I was looking at Instagram. I saw Elias Gabel's posts that was canceled.
Yeah.
Right.
On Google.
Yeah, well, you found out the same way Riley did.
Exactly.
Apparently. So that's not good. Your own cast member doesn't even know. And
exactly.
I mean, I feel like, so let's talk about it. You guys, you're part of this massive groundswell of social media support for the show. Hashtag Save Scorpion.
Yes.
And you guys are on just like this incredible mission to get someone out there, Netflix or one of the streaming services or even CBS or whoever, to bring back the show, at least for a season. We were talking to Riley about this a little bit. At least for a season or 6 episodes or something to wrap up the show properly for the fans. So we wanted to talk to you a little bit about it. Like, how did you get involved with the Save Scorpion campaign, and where did it all kind of start, and how's it going? Are you getting a lot of positive feedback? Have you been able to reach out to any of the networks or the streaming services, and kind of walk us through a little bit about what you guys are doing?
Well, a day or two after I found out, actually the same day, I saw a couple petitions online to hashtag Save Scorpion. So I put my signature on all of them, and I discovered the whole hashtag Save Scorpion on Twitter, and I've been very active with it ever since.
And how's it going? I mean, we can just, I mean, from what we've seen on social media, it's a huge following. And I mean, is there a particular one that you guys are trying to reach out to, like Netflix, or is there someone that you guys you feel like you have a better shot with? To try to get this brought back, or what's the focus on what you guys are trying to do to bring it back?
I think Netflix is the main alternative network to have Scorpion on, since CBS is no longer interested in making more episodes.
Right.
Yeah, agreed.
And so how do you think, like, would you like to see it come back for more than one season, or would you be okay if they brought it back just to kind of resolve everything?
Well, personally, I would prefer to have more than one season because the show has always had unlimited potential.
Yeah.
But after all the time we spent trying to bring Scorpion back, I would be happy just to have a proper ending, even if it's just an hour-and-a-half TV movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Cool. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think the fans deserve it. You guys have been just absolutely outstanding. And best of luck. We're going to continue to support the Save Scorpion campaign.
All over social media.
All over social media. And we're going to do our best to help get the message out there and maybe get Netflix's attention and see what we can do about, bringing it back. Because we're like you, man. Even if it's just for a quick TV movie to wrap it up. We think the fans deserve that. We think the cast deserves that. I think they got a raw deal, too. And so, we're all about the Save Scorpion campaign. So we will continue to tell everybody. And listen, man, thanks so much for joining us on the segment and talking about it. And thank you for
having me.
Yo, absolutely, man. And like I said, best of luck. We'll continue to help out any way that we can. And we look forward to hopefully having you back on when they bring it back. That would be awesome if we could bring you back on because the campaign was successful. So let's hope that happens and we can make that
definitely
work.
Yeah, I would be happy to do that.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, take care and have a great rest of the day, okay?
You too. Thank you again.
All right. Word of the day?
Word of the day.
Word of the day. Juicer.
Is this
like
some
the
sort
like
of a
the
joke
machine
towards my life?
Yeah.
Memory problem. Like, if you drink more natural juice,
you should try that shit.
No, it's not a kitchen appliance or a steroid head at the gym.
Okay, all right.
This is more referring to the electrician on a set would be the juicer.
Okay.
Because without electricity or without proper electricity, you can't do anything on a set.
You got no juice.
Exactly.
No lighting, no camera, no nothing, no sound, nothing's gonna be recording without that person. So Juicer.
Now, does the juicer, is he actually the guy that you see over at the wall and he like throws the switch because he like does the juice, right?
Like, yeah.
Sets it all up and then like.
I don't think he's bringing Frankenstein back to life.
That's like one big switch. It's like I don't think any electrician wants everything through one
just
switch.
one switch.
Yeah, no, but it worked out so well for Frankenstein.
Epic as it may be, I don't think it's very practical.
The hum alone would just be enormous. Every movie you just hear.
Oh, but that's my favorite.
But that's my favorite part of a movie.
Is the awkward sound.
Oh, that's why you like the Paranormal Activity movies. There's that low end hum in there.
I'm gonna punch you in the face.
Wow, she is really feisty today.
So anyway,
I just
part
don't know what else
of that
to say.
missing soul.
That's
apparently.
just where I go when I don't know what else to say.
gonna
Don't
punch you
back
in
me
the
to a
face.
corner, man.
It's all right. I don't like Sabrina. I'm gonna punch you in the face.
That's right. I mean, just any time now. Like,
Yeah.
I think.
All right. Box office. Oh man, it's been a while. Fantastic Beasts, the sequel. That movie's coming out with Johnny Depp in it. He does not have cancer. He was just doing a role. Johnny Depp looks pale as shit. Yeah.
Isn't that normal?
It's like
though?
what?
Is
It's like
it
where do
better
you go with
than
that?
He's pretty pale.
I mean,
he's pretty
and he does
pale.
typically look kind of weird.
Yeah.
I mean, like to be honest.
I mean, yeah.
Since 21 Jump Street, he's just kind of like progressively.
Okay.
Anyway,
but the
Kind of. Wait. He's gotten kind of weird.
that's what I said. Since 21 Jump Street, it's kind of progressively gone downhill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
another
I
new.
Okay.
Other new movies that are coming out. Instant Family. I haven't seen any trailers or promotions
either.
about
I
this.
have.
Mark Wahlberg, yeah,
Mark Wahlberg?
and Rose Byrne.
It's
Okay.
It's the couple that they went to go get a foster or adopt a kid, and instead of just getting a kid, they got 3 because they're all one family.
Well,
they're all from one family.
So nice, good, happy, feel good movie.
Yeah.
They basically didn't want to separate these kids, and so they took them all.
I mean, perfect time. I mean, the holidays. That's where you want to.
Yeah, that's where it is.
Exactly. They're releasing it Thanksgiving, Christmas.
Yeah.
So that's the perfect time for a family movie.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know?
And also,
come on, Wahlberg's he's been hitting it with these holiday films lately, right? Like, so.
I mean, Daddy's Home.
Yeah, Daddy's Home. Daddy's Home too.
Yeah, exactly. Widows is also coming out this week. That one looks badass.
Yeah, it
Sounds creepy. Is it creepy?
No. It's basically these women who their husbands are not able to support them anymore, or they don't have husbands to help support them, and then they just like rob a bank or rob something.
Yeah. Apparently, their husbands were like some seedy characters, and they were
Liam Neeson's in it.
Yeah. Liam Neeson plays Viola Davis's husband.
Yeah.
And Michelle Rodriguez. It's like an insane female
cast.
cast.
It's a great cast.
Like the
And it
cast
has
is-
an awesome score so far. Like the Metascore is 87.
Yeah.
Damn.
7.5.
And so, but basically,
Nice.
I think they were supposed to do a job for like this criminal organization.
Yeah.
And they all got killed.
Yeah.
They messed it up. They didn't do something. So the criminal organization like kills all the husbands.
Yeah.
And so these women, now widows, decide they're going to punch them in the face.
That's right.
Yeah, punch them in the face.
They basically decide that they're going to go steal these people's money as a way to take care of themselves for what they did to their husbands, kind of thing. But so then, of course, obviously the criminal organization's not going to like that, and they kind of figure out
badass premise.
So it's an awesome premise. But
And it has Liam Neeson in it.
And it has
yeah,
Liam
and it has
Neeson.
Viola
Liam
Davis.
Neeson in
It has
it.
Liam Neeson
He's got a
in
it. Yeah,
particular
she's
set of
awesome.
skills that apparently didn't do him any good in this film because he died.
Yeah.
Not
But
this one.
maybe Viola has those particular set of skills
Exactly.
in this film.
Yeah.
So,
And I mean, movies that are still out this week: A Star Is Born, Halloween, The Hate You Give, The Grinch, Bohemian Rhapsody, Overlord, which Billy Ray,
Yeah.
talked
what a
to him on the
fantastic
show.
guest he was.
Yeah, and then the Nutcracker in the Four Realms.
Darn right. Go make sure you go back and listen to Billy Ray's interview.
Yes.
Subscribe, like, and listen to the podcast
Yep.
because he tells you all about Overlord and how it kind of all came about. And
Yep.
Now I know that one's creepy.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
that
one's
one.
Yeah. Great interview though. Great interview. And then I got really excited though when did you see first of all I saw The Hate You Give recently. Oh my gosh, phenomenal. If you guys haven't seen it yet, see it. Do yourself a favor and watch it. It's brilliant. Cast is brilliant. Everything great. And we talked about that in industry news. The screenwriter passed away literally like the day before the movie opened.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and but she just brilliant script and a great movie. But what I was gonna say is and we can kind of transition it to the music segment.
I haven't even given my predictions yet.
No, but I'm saying just after.
Okay.
But I saw that if in the event that Shallows gets nominated as best song, best original song for the Oscars, they have decided, Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper have both said, we absolutely will come on and do the performance of Shallows. And they're working on an outside of the box, unorthodox performance that Bradley's already working on.
Oh.
So not only will
Lady
they come
Gaga,
on and sing it together,
be conventional in any way.
they're going to do some sort of kind of awesome. So
epic.
I'm like, if the Academy is listening, nominate the damn song so we can see the... First of all, it deserves to be nominated, and it probably deserves to win, in my opinion. But then to see them perform it together in some kind of epic performance.
Just let them do it no matter what. Whether they get nominated or not. People are going to love it.
If not, Bradley and Lady Gaga will be outside of the Academy performing it.
And then nobody will be watching the show. They'll be watching them.
Exactly.
One other thing about the Oscars, Stanley needs to have the ending.
He's got to be the last one in memoriam. It's got to be like the one they end on where it goes out.
Yeah.
And how perfect is that? Because also for this year for the Oscars, it's all going to be a celebration of John Williams' music, who has some of the most epic superhero scores. I mean, Superman of all. So to have the John Williams and the Superman score and all that kind of awesomeness, and then Stan Lee and the in memoriam, it's going to be amazing. So
get your tissues ready.
Seriously.
Tissues ready.
But number one this week, I think, will be Fantastic Beasts, that sequel movie.
With Pale Johnny.
Yeah, with Pale Johnny Depp, with around 60 to 70 million. Number two, I think, is going to be The Grinch, which was number one last week. It had 65 or something million last week.
I saw some trailers. It looked pretty fun.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah. I think number two with around 25 to 30 million. Number three, Bohemian Rhapsody. Still need to see this one.
Yes.
Oh man. Fifth. I think it's going to be number three with around 15 to 23 million. Number four, Instant Family with around 15 to 20 million, and number five, Widows with around 10 to 15 million. Yeah. So I mean, we shall see. We shall see.
I just gotta say that Pale Johnny sounds like the name of some seedy character in town. Go see Pale Johnny. He's got what you need. It just sounds.
Pale Johnny might got you the prescription you need.
I thought it sounded like the name of a Clint Eastwood spaghetti western that I had missed back in the 70s. Pale Johnny.
Pale Johnny. I could see Pale Johnny with a trench coat and opens it up. What you need.
That's what the man with no name's real name is. Pale Johnny.
Pale Johnny.
Pale Johnny and Charlie Sheen yelling "Winning!"
Winning, that's right. Yeah,
it's that's the good guy.
You know what I would love to see a team up movie of Pale Johnny and Harry Mike.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
That would be epic.
Oh
yeah,
man.
Yeah.
He opens up what you need, and Harry Mike needs some more bedazzle. So you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know.
Stories coming soon. Stories coming soon.
I'm not writing that one.
Oh, don't worry, guys. About this. All right, transitioning into the music. Billboard chart toppers. Number one this week, Ariana Grande's are on the Hot 100. Number one this week is Ariana Grande's Thank You Next. This is the first one. This is the first week that it is number one. This is the song that's basically saying that fuck everybody else, fuck every relationships I've ever been in. I'm going to be okay with myself.
Yep.
And so hopefully she just starts to work on herself and not try to rush back into a relationship, because
always a good idea.
That's the best idea.
I mean, you can't have a successful relationship unless you're okay with yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't.
Exactly.
So
I just thought the funny thing was she released this song when Pete Davidson was on his Saturday night sketch.
Yeah.
So she released
about
it
her
at the same time.
So,
Hey.
So that's pretty funny.
Will you marry me? That makes two.
Get this. And then the top 200 albums this week. Not All Heroes Wear Capes. Metro Boomin, he's coming out of Atlanta. He's only 23, and he has a pretty big following, pretty big, huge producer base. So that's pretty awesome for such a young person to have a top 200 albums.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's a compilation album with everybody else. But,
but the title is fitting.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't have a betterly titled... Betterly. God, I really...
Betterly titled. Butter-coated that shit.
Butter-coated, that's right.
That's what happens when you give up coffee.
Yeah.
See, yes, that's such a problem. You are so right. What I was going to say is it couldn't not have been a better titled number one album, Hero Doesn't Need Cape, with Stanley passing.
Stanley, yeah.
You know, it's like fitting.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah. And then honorable mention, I just wanted to mention Nicki Minaj is the first ever female in history to have 100 entries on the Hot 100.
Oh.
It's pretty epic. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, bravo to her.
What does Cardi B think of that? No.
Yeah, right. Shoes flying. I don't know.
She apparently was shaking her junk all over
goodness.
the place on something the other day.
Goodness gracious. Well, anyway, guys, thank you for listening. It is awesome to be back. Make sure to like and subscribe to this podcast. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play Music, all that good stuff. Like it, rate it. Give us a comment down below, all that good stuff. Follow us everywhere. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit. All that good shit. Facebook, Crazy Ant Film Company. Twitter, Crazy Ant Films. Instagram, Crazy_Ant_Films. And we have a website, crazyantfilms.com. And I also just started a review segment podcast called Fantastic Reviews. Go find that anywhere and everywhere. Thank you very much. Shameless plug. And we have one more thing. Oprah!